Hello. Um, DNA, do you hear me? I saw you're in the chat. Do you hear me? Okay. I know if you need to bump it up a bit. This is right? Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I think so. You guys can probably hear me. Let me bump up the volume. Hello. There we go. I think we should get on my end. Let me call Vic in here. Sup, Robbie? Yeah, you can you hear me okay? All right, let me call Vic in, then we'll. How do I call? There we go. Hey, what's up, brother? Hang on, let me just make sure desktop audio is working. Would you mind saying something?
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
All right, perfect. I think we should be good. Hang on, let me bump up my levels a bit.
Sure.
Yeah, I think we're pretty on the same level, so that should work. And then let's do this. I'm gonna move you over here. If you can tell, I don't stream often, and I'm not very good at it.
Anyways, are you live right now, or are we going live in a bit? Like, I don't know.
Oh, we're live. I'm just trying to figure out. Let's see. Do I have to turn off my webcam on stream? Probably. Let me try turning that off. So you should just see a black screen. Okay, did it work? Oh yeah, it's so weird. Here, would you mind try? Can you turn your camera on Discord?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so this should work. And then what I'll do is this. This is display 2, right?
Yeah, because right now I only see myself,
Yeah.
which is something I wouldn't complain about usually. But
let's see, damn it. Let's actually move me over. Maybe I can do this. Maybe zoom me in a bit. Display 2. Okay, so that's good. Oh, damn. Okay, here, I'll just do this. Hey, there we go. That's a somewhat okay fix, I guess.
On my side, I only see myself, so I don't really.
Are you on my stream or Discord?
Oh, I meant on Discord. I just clicked on your stream to see.
Yeah, so now you should be up there.
Yeah. On your stream, I see myself. Okay, now it's good. Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, I have to get better at that, but we're good. We got there.
Yeah.
I think levels are fine, so we're good to go, man.
Yeah. So how are you doing, dude?
Not bad. My next video is on I'm doing Avatar: The Last Airbender. I just finished my watch all the way through. Really liked it. Do have some issues. I was kind of, I think, a bit too old for like the hype, or like when it was like really big, because I have a lot of viewers who were like, this show is like instrumental to my childhood. But for me, I knew of it when it was like airing when I was a kid, but I never actually saw it. I must have been like 13, 14, 15, somewhere around there when it was airing. I think. Wait, when did it air? Did you watch it as a kid? Avatar: The Last Airbender?
I didn't watch it as a kid. I watched it last year. I think 2 years ago, maybe. Because during the pandemic, I was just trying to, because I was stuck at home, I was just trying to find something to watch. so I gave it a try. I enjoyed it, but uh I feel like no, it had some themes that were not children appropriate, so it wasn't fully for children. But it's like there's stuff that like children wouldn't get it, but adult get it. Like
Yeah,
there was some stuff that were especially its analogy with the Basing say and stuff. But I thought it was really cool.
yeah, that's what I liked about it. I was surprised. I was very impressed with the mature themes,
Mhm.
particularly Zuko's arc, the character. I actually
Yeah,
this I don't think this is actually that controversial. I actually think that to some extent, and this is an argument I'm going to make in the video. I think Zuko's arc actually is too good in the sense
yeah,
that um, it kind of overshadows the other characters,
yeah.
at least in my
So
views. But
I kind of, in a way, I kind of related the most with Zuko in the whole, like, out of everyone else.
oh, absolutely, he's like an unbelievable character. His characterization. The others are good, but I think he almost overshadows like even Aang, like the main character or supposedly the Airbender title character. I think he does kind of get overshadowed a little bit, not like to an huge extent, but and he, no, I actually don't want to spoil it so for anyone, but no, I really like the show and I was glad I watched it. So that's my next video coming up. How about you? What have you been up to?
Yeah, I've just been doing some like work-related stuff. I want to work in marketing, so I've been studying search engine optimization, which is interesting, but it's not that difficult, but it's a bit annoying.
For marketing?
I
Nice,
don't know
that's
if you know
cool.
much about that.
Not at all. You should probably if you see my channel, I have no idea how to market myself or my thumbnails are shit. My
But
thumbnails are shit. My titles are shit. But that's how we roll.
yeah, but
Um,
I'm really into movies and stuff. Like, I wanna, I'm kind of considering doing. I've tried it a few times, but I didn't succeed at it. But I was doing like movie reviews on TikTok, but no one was watching it, so I just kept deleting it out of frustration. But I
yeah,
kind of
it's
want to give it a try again, just because I watch so many movies, I might as well try to make content out of it.
yeah. The issue there is that and this is why like thankfully I have enough of an audience where this I'm able to kind of get away with it. But the issue there is one, if you talk about movies that everyone's talking about, the market's
Mhm.
oversaturated. Like if you
Yeah.
make a what's airing right now, if you make a video on I don't know what came out Avatar. If you make a video on Avatar, it's
Guardians of the
like
Galaxy, the last one.
yeah. So if you make a video on that, it's like oh, okay, but you're probably gonna be going up against a bunch of other YouTubers who made a video about Avatar. But if you make videos about movies that like aren't as popular, um, then no one knows to search for it. You might be the only person who's made an essay on this movie, but like 8 people know what movie you're talking about. Um, that's it's kind of hard to find. Like for my channel, I try to I'll let the audience vote on which ones like which show they want to do next. I pick like I set a group of 4, so at the very least it's the show that I wanna watch, or like that I'm interested in or talking about. Um, and then from then I'll pick. But I try to find ones where it's like people know it, but like I did one on The Shield, which is a show that like people have seen, they know about, but I've never seen like a long form analysis on it. And then I did one on Better Call Saul, and that did pretty good. Um, and the next one's on Avatar: The Last Airbender, which I think should hopefully will do okay because a lot of people are really into that. So I'll try not to be too
Yeah.
harsh, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I'd recommend you skip The Legend of Korra because I just gave up 2 seasons in.
I'll probably so again what I do is I list all the shows in like option. What I might do is like in maybe like a couple months, what I'll do is I'll add it to the roster, and then if people vote for it, if they want to hear my thoughts, I'll do it. But yeah, I'm doing Avatar, and then Hannibal is up next, and then
Oh yeah.
after that, Succession, Barry, and Ted Lasso are all ending like within the next like 4 or 5 weeks or something.
Okay.
So I'm probably gonna do a video on one of those because me and my girlfriend watched Ted Lasso and Succession, and we're catching up on Barry, and they're all great shows. Yeah, at DNA, I do want to do. Have you ever seen the show Transparent?
No.
No, it was It was an Amazon series. It was about Jeffrey Tambor plays a trans woman who, and like the
Okay.
series is based around coming out to her kids, and it's really interesting because season one was great. Season 2 was a masterpiece. Season 3 was okay. Season 4 was ass. And then after that, when they were going into season 5, Jeffrey Tambor um,
Yeah.
got Me Too'd. He got accused of sexual assault from one of the actresses on the show. And so they did like a musical movie finale, and it was awful. It was just absolute shit. So yeah, I would love to talk about that show just to see how it went downhill. Um,
Jeffrey Tambor, he's the dude in Arrested Development, right? The father.
yes, yes, and he's
Yeah.
really great and transparent. But I think the show has kind of lost its way. It was interesting, and then
Hmm.
it was revolutionary. It kind of had it was like a show where like the main character was not only trans, they were not framed as an angel. They were very flawed and very almost selfish in a way. Um, isn't that just he was harassing women? He was accused of sexting trans woman. Oh yeah, the with the writer, yes, on the show. Yeah, it was weird too. Apparently, they only had a trans writer on that show until season 3, which is like what the fuck. But yeah, man, if you yeah you should do. I mean, if you like it, do the video movie reviews because I'm always down to watch that.
Yeah, usually like whenever I watch a movie, I'm gonna watch Guardians later tonight after we're done. Yeah, depending on what time we're done, either I'll head over right away or I'll wait a couple of hours and head to the cinema. But I'm gonna watch the next one. Usually, every time I'm done with the movie, I'll as soon as I leave the theater, when I'm walking back home, like once I say bye to my friends, just walk back home. Either I'll put on like John Campea or uh Jeffrey Zantz, Jeremy Jantz, right? I forget their names.
I don't know.
Do you know who I'm talking about?
I know John Campea, but only because I made fun of him in one of my male body video. I don't know the other guy.
Is it Jeremy Jantz or something? Or
I don't know.
heavy spoilers also who has
It
some guys I watch.
it's funny because like I do like media analysis on my channel, but
Yeah.
the only YouTubers I watch are like Destiny Vosh, Not So Erudite, you.
Yeah.
That might be it. I mean, like I'll like watch like YMS when he comes out with a movie, but like it's funny how like the ones that I watch are not like I'll throw on because they're like streamers. So when they have like a long form video, I'll put my headset in while I'm at work. I work at the bar. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's just funny how everyone's like, "Oh, did you see this media analysis?" I'm like, I don't watch media analysis on YouTube at all. I just do my own thing because I don't want to, especially because I don't want it to like. I'm sure you agree, where it's like you don't want to watch something if you're doing like a movie review or an analysis, you want to do it. You want to give your opinion. You don't want to have it poisoned by other people's opinions. Because even if you watch it, and even if you don't agree, or even if you don't mean to, sometimes it can um, kind of shift your opinion if you watch too many of it, or you can kind of like adopt their opinions as your own.
And it's like if you watch someone else's work first, it might frame it in a way in your head. So even if you have other thoughts, but
Exactly.
the way you'll deliver it is gonna be the same just because it framed it in your head in a certain way. And once you're framed in a certain mindset, you can't really look at it in a different perspective. But if you
Exactly.
just watch it without knowing, you would have your own perspective on it.
Yeah, when I did my Last of Us 2 video, I literally did
Hmm.
not watch any negative reviews. And then, of course, after I put my video out, then I went back and watched them. And then I was like, oh, okay, it looks like we did have similar arguments. But I'm glad I didn't do that before, because otherwise I would have been like, oh, should I say this? Is that my idea or is that his idea? Um, so, yeah, I was glad I didn't do it before.
But yeah, when it comes to so I guess on my channel, I guess I talk more dating stuff, but there's no one who really does what I do, so I don't really like. But I mean, I'm at a stage where I'm kind of, I guess I watch Alex playing with fire, but just because I copy him a lot, but like he's cool with it. I mean, I just copy his style of delivery or the kind of content he does. I try to get ideas from him, and sometimes I reach out to his guests to try to get them to come on my channel. But outside of him, yeah, I don't know. I'm not I don't really like that much of the dating content nowadays. I think it's kind of Um, yeah, it's just not my thing.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's sort of, and again, we can kind of segue that into sort of to
Mhm.
talk about. But yeah, it's dating advice and dating content is difficult because it's one of those things where it's like in regard to pickup, like I think it can kind of help at the beginning, but
Mhm.
not only at one point can it actually be, does it kind of like reach like its half life where it kind of like it's sort of like a diminishing returns, but I actually think
Yeah.
at some point it can actually be detrimental, and that's actually what happened with me, where when I first got into pickup, it helped a lot in terms of like getting me out there, actually talking with women, giving me basic social skills, giving me basic
Mhm.
conversational skills, yada yada yada. But then at a certain point, once I had built up like a decent amount of like social calibration, a decent amount of social experience, I found that thinking too hard about like dating techniques and pickup and stuff like that, it actually fucked me up more often than it did not. Because I was like, if I was having a conversation with a girl, that for me, that's sort of like the big irony of a lot of dating advice. Because the one thing that I kind of the space you have to get to is to get out of your head. I honestly
Mhm.
think like dating is pretty easy if you can get out of your head. If you can kind of get expectations, like, oh, what do I say next to this? What's the next thing I say to that? If you're just able to have like a conversation and not worry about that, I think that your dating life becomes way easier. Um, but for me, what happened was is that I got so focused on like, oh, how should I respond to this thing she says? How should I do this to get this? That it ended up fucking me up more than it did. But then once I kind of got away from that and I was just like, yeah, let's just have a conversation, shoot the shit, talk a bit, and then see where it goes. I ended up seeing way better results with that than if I was always trying to like think about it. So for me, it can start off well at the beginning, but then at some point it becomes kind of not only detrimental, not only kind of useless, but it can be detrimental, at least in my experience.
When you mentioned that, what I've been thinking about too is that, like most people who watch the pickup artist content or dating content, they'll watch it, like most people who watch it to learn, not who watch it for entertainment, just trying to actually learn. You'll watch it, you'll learn some stuff, you'll apply it in your life, you'll see the changes, and then you'll stop watching the content because you gain what you were trying to get from it, right? Like either you're getting a
Exactly.
relationship or you'll start getting laid a lot, whatever you're dating or like whatever goals you have. And I think so. That's why, like, if you see someone who's been watching a dating YouTuber for a long time, either that person is only interested in entertainment, or that person is never gonna improve because, like, they just don't put any effort in. Because if they did, like years ago, they would have stopped watching. But when it comes to uh the advice not helping you that much after a while becoming detrimental, uh, do you think it's a fault of the advice or it's a fault of how you engage with it?
I think it was an issue of it's sort of like I'm trying to think of a good. I think because I remember I talked with Alex just recently,
Mhm.
and the
Yeah.
we were kind of talking about it, and he used the metaphor of training wheels. I kind of
Mhm.
see pickup as the same way. Is that when
Yeah.
you're kind of trying to get your social groove going, when you're trying to gain social experience, you need training wheels.
Mhm.
Here's kind of like how to like introduce yourself. Here's how to start here's how to start a conversation. Here's how to find common interest. Here's how to sort of like introduce like, hey, how do you want to go back to my place or something like that. And those are sort of the training, like again, the whole point of training wheels in that case is to kind of get you going, to kind of help you, kind of like baby walk you through social interactions. But at least for me, and this kind of goes back to my experience, at some point the training wheels are like the entire point of training wheels is that eventually they're supposed to come off, right? Like that's the whole point
Mhm.
of like that's the whole point of them. It makes you comfortable kind of getting started, but eventually you can kind of ditch them and then like, okay, now I can go out in the world. Now I'm armed with like this arsenal of social skills and social experience, and now I can go out and find people I like and then have relationships with them. What kind of what seemed like what it seemed like to me was that a lot of pickup, and like you brought up a great point of like guys who watch pickup, like I've met guys who have like their body counts are like they've slept with like 2 dozen women and they're still watching pickup content, and I'm kind of like, what what are you doing? Like it seemed like if you slept with like 2 dozen women, even if you slept with like
Hmm.
5 or 6 women, it seems like you're doing pretty well. It seems like whatever you're doing is
Yeah.
working. You're finding women that like you, and you're able to have relationships with them. That doesn't mean that every woman you meet you'll be able to sleep with. Um, but it seems like that you're making progress in talking with women, forming a connection, and then it escalating to a relationship or sex or what have you. So yeah, so for me, it kind of felt strange when I'm like, wait, so you slept with like 2 dozen women? Why are you still like, what else is there to learn? Like, what are you trying? Like, what is your goal here? And for me, that's
Hmm.
kind of where it becomes okay. So instead of it acting as like training wheels that you eventually take off, I use the metaphor. It's like constantly adding more elaborate training wheels. Like just keep adding more and more training wheels on and different like things. So the idea being that like anytime you enter a situation with a woman, you're instead of because like for me, my advice to guys would be like get these basic skills, stop watching pickup content, and then just interact with women. If it works out, great. If it doesn't, oh well. But it seems like a lot of pickup content, a lot of sort of like advanced pickup content veers into the area of okay, here's this chick and my goal is to get her in bed. I'm trying to sleep with this woman. I don't care. I don't necessarily care if like I like her. I don't necessarily care if we're like a good match. I don't necessarily care if she's rude, dumb, smart, whatever. I am just
Hmm.
trying to get this woman back into my apartment to have sex with her. Now, if that's what you want, that you know, that's cool. But the issue is that for me, and this is kind of what happened with me, I almost felt like I was like it didn't feel like I was talking to a woman. It felt like I was talking to like a computer program. I was like, oh, she said this, and now I'm putting this input in. Oh,
Hmm.
she said this and did this and acted this way, so I'm gonna counter with this. And it was all this sort of like it framed this like instead of being on a date and having fun with this girl and just having a conversation with her and trying to make a connection, it felt more like I was playing chess, or it felt like I was like playing like it felt like we were like combatants in a way, or like but only I thought that. I was like, oh, she's in the way of me getting to her pussy, so I have to
Yeah.
do this and this, and that's kind of how. And again, I don't think that a lot of people say it's manipulative. I don't think it's manipulative, because like again, if the woman, she probably doesn't know the difference. She doesn't know if you're being sincere. She doesn't know if you're being unsincere or like whatever. But for me, from my perspective, it felt I I didn't feel like I was being myself. It felt like everything I said was like trying everything I was saying to her instead of answering just like I would or like voicing my own opinion. It felt like I was always trying to find an angle as to how to get this girl interested in me or how to get her into bed or I'm always trying to do the thing that's more likely to get her into bed with me. And for me, and again, for the woman, she might not even realize it. So that's why I don't think it's like manipulative. But for me, for my sense of self, I almost kind of had like an identity crisis because I almost felt like I don't even kind of know who I am anymore. Like it was weird. It was a very, and funny enough, I at the bar I work at, one of the bartenders there, he had spent time in New York, and he's like incredibly charismatic, like the kind of guy who can like make friends with anybody. And he was talking about like his dating experience in New York, and he was very successful with women. And I was like, oh man, that must be really cool. And he was like, actually, kind of no. It kind of got really exhausting after a while because you were always sort of acting, even if you weren't trying, you were always sort of acting a certain way. Because again, if I'm trying to get a woman to sleep with me, if that's my main goal, I might not necessarily act or say certain things that I would otherwise. Because, oh, what if I say this and she's not interested? Or what if I do this and she doesn't like that? Whereas where it seems like with pickup, it kind of always has this undercurrent of you're always trying to find the angle to try and get this girl interested in you or attracted to you, or to try to get her back to your place. And again, to be clear, I don't necessarily think it's manipulative, because again, the girl doesn't really know. Um, but for me, it just kind of feels like I didn't feel like I was developing a personality. I didn't really feel like I was like a person. I felt like I was like a video game character. Like I was like playing a video game and I was like putting in the correct inputs or something like that. That's sort of me. That's sort of my issue with the sort of pickup, or at least like how you said, like people who like watch it and keep watching it even after they like have developed like a decent social foundation, I guess you could say.
With all the recent stuff happening, the sentence, the term, the expression "what if" will never have the same. No, watch it. Sorry, the expression "watch it" will never have the same meaning anymore.
Oh, the
I don't know
Crowder
if you've
thing.
seen that.
Oh
Yeah,
God.
watch it. You know. But
God, yeah. What
yeah,
what a what a shit show. My God, the whole Crowder thing. Ugh.
yeah. But yeah, regarding the so I had a thought in mind. Just give me a second to like phrase it right. So when it comes to uh, learning pickup and all, the way I look at it is that initially it makes sense that you'll be like kind of following not a script, because following a script is most of the time going to be bad. It's not a good way to learn, but following some guidelines at first, because you don't really know what you're doing. So you need like it's like you need to know, oh, if she says this, some stuff, what you kind of want to respond with. Like it's like you know what kind of thing you're supposed to respond with, rather than the exact sentence you have to respond with. And a few times you'll miss the mark, but if you don't try it a few times, or if you don't like actively focus on it, you won't actually understand how to do it on your own. So it gives you that initial like it's like a training program. Like oh, it's like the example that I came up with was what it's like for people who are in martial arts, so like who do like jujitsu or whatever. Like they learn the technique, they practice the technique, and then they'll try to apply it in a fighting combat. And sometimes the technique will not work because the person is resisting, and then they have to find out how to make it work. And it's the same thing with here. It's like you learn the technique, you apply it. Because of other factors, sometimes it's going to work, sometimes it's not going to work. But the more you practice it, eventually you'll know when to do it, how to adapt it, and you'll become more comfortable. And you'll know, like, it's like you become more natural about it. But if you don't have a social skill to begin with, you need to treat it like it's like a jujitsu move or whatever. You're learning it like super robotically, and before you apply it, you know.
Exactly. Another good metaphor is I have my guitar right here. When
Mhm.
you're first learning how to, if you want to solo on guitar, you start to learn scales, and then you start to learn little licks, and then you start to learn, putting scales together. You learn the technique, you do it over and over and over again, you get the practice, you get the training wheels, as they say. But then eventually, kind of like martial arts, you get to a point where you've kind of you've absorbed the techniques, you've absorbed the tips, you've absorbed the exercises, and now when you're soloing, like if I'm soloing on like the guitar or something, I'm usually not thinking about it. Like it's not something that I'm like consciously, oh, I'm gonna hit this note and then this note and then you hit this note. It's just something that you kind of sort of you sort of like absorb, and it just sort of becomes natural. For me, social interaction was the same way, where and that's why I like in the big dating video I did, that's why like the whole first section was like in defense of pickup, because the whole argument was like, hey, if you take a guy who's like super socially inept, like a guy who has no social experience, you can't just throw him to the wolves. You can't just say go talk to girls. That doesn't like, he's like, what the fuck? That makes no sense. It's like, okay, here's some tips. Here's you structure it kind of like a game. That's the Neil Strauss book, the everything. You structure it like a game. It's like, oh, okay, this is because dating and social interaction is a very malleable, very unpredictable, space, an unpredictable sphere, if you will. So if you can add um, some level of common sense or structure to it, which I think that's kind of what pickup or dating tips or dating advice is, to try to apply some structure to it, it kind of gets guys' foot in the door. It's like, okay, now I can go out there. Now I can start talking to girls. Now I can start, generating attraction, yada, yada, yada. But, and this kind of goes back to the training wheel example. At some point, like you said, you want it to become kind of natural. You don't want it to be a thing where you're like constantly thinking about, oh, this girl, how do I get attraction? Yeah. At some point, you just want to be a regular, socially well-adjusted guy. And I think in most cases, at least most of the guys I ran into who are like into pickup or even red pill, or even guys who kind of got into it, it's like their goal isn't to sleep with like 8 million women or something. It's mostly just like, hey, if I meet a girl who I like, I don't want to fuck it up. Or I don't want to fuck it up for like, it doesn't mean that I have to get this girl. It doesn't mean that I have to get her in bed. But I don't want to, if I meet a girl, I don't want to be too nervous to say hello. Or I don't want to say something awkward and like and she'll be like, fuck off, weirdo. I think most guys just kind of want like a general social foundation, I guess is a good way to put it. And then once they're done with that, like you said, most of the guys will just, okay, bye, pick up. I don't need you anymore. But like you said, then it starts to get to a weird level where it's like, again, like I know guys who have been laid like 24 times and they're still watching pickup stuff. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, what are you trying to learn? And back to the point of, having detrimental effects. A perfect example is like you said with martial arts. You can learn the techniques, you can learn the counters and all that stuff. But when you're in that ring, if you think too hard about what is supposed to work or what's supposed to make sense, you're probably going to fuck yourself up. You need to kind of be, when you're in the ring, you kind of have to be, like Bruce Lee said, you have to be water. You have to be very malleable. You've prepared yourself, you have the foundation, but when you're in that ring, you have to be prepared for whatever is thrown at you. And but again, like you're not thinking too hard about it. It's not like you're, oh, if this person does this, I'll do this. It's more of just you're responding in the moment. And that's kind of how I feel about dating, where it's like you don't want to constantly be thinking about like, if you're chilling with a chick at a bar and you're getting along, you don't want to start thinking about like, oh, how do I increase attraction, or how do I, bring this and do this? It's like, because again, in my experience, that fucked me up way more times than it ended up helping me.
Just to respond to the part about why does your friend or like the guy you were referring to, or why is he still watching? I mean, for all we know, maybe he finds it entertaining. He's just watching
Yeah.
it as entertainment. It's like people who watch Destiny. Most of them are never going to be debaters, but they enjoy it. It's like entertainment for them. But also could also be like he's trying to get to learn more advanced pickup skills. Like for me, my skills are super average, but I don't need more than that. Like I don't need to be the best in the world or among the best or whatever. I'm satisfied being average, because uh, I have other priorities in life. So like in terms of like getting jobs, working out, doing like life stuff, it's just not the most important for me. And it's like if I'm good enough that I get laid, and I have a kind of dating life that I want, I'm happy with it. But some people just want to get like all the advanced skills. Like there are stuff I don't even know how to do it or what the point of ML. Like for example, I know like I've seen a video of like Alex was talking about how RSD Tyler was like merging sets during that game. I don't know what the hell that is.
I don't even know
I
what
don't
the
even
fuck
know.
you're talking
I don't know what the
about.
point of it is. But
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 I know, so like a set is like, okay, this is also the shit like where I don't like pickup, where it gets kind of like, I'm kind of like, so like when you say set, you're talking about if I'm talking to a girl, that's a set, right?
yeah, that's what I
Okay.
mean. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll
At
be
some,
honest. Outside of that video, I haven't used these terms in forever. It's just
yeah,
not how I think of it anymore.
it's kind of like I almost get to the point where it's like, this is so fucking cringe. Like, it's like, oh, it was in a set. It's like, so you were talking to a chick? Like, God, fuck, it's so and again, I understand at the beginning if
Yeah.
you're just like, if you're trying to get a guy who's super socially inept to get out there. I can see it's like, oh, uh IOI, indicator of interest, that was like the big one. Or
Yeah.
like if you're open a two set, like you're adding. But then after a certain point, it's like if you're a socially inept guy, it's like if I go talk to a girl, it's like I'm not like I'm opening the set. It's just like, just go fucking talk to her, bro. Like, why are you like? It's really weird that you're like saying all these like weird, cringy terms, and
Yeah.
that's kind of when it gets like sort of like it's, and again, it almost becomes, it kind of becomes a game where it's like, oh, okay, well, I'm trying to do, I'm trying to get these girls. Well, and to your point, I think that is what the majority of guys who get into it. I don't think most guys, or at least like a good amount of guys, even if they get to that point, I don't know many guys who are like, yeah, I want to fuck 100 girls. Like they might say that, but then like after they like talk to some girls, they go on some dates, they meet a girlfriend, they have fun. Like you said, they kind of have other priorities. They're like, okay, I'm able to talk to women, I'm able to get dates, I'm able to do this, but like my main priority is not getting as laid as much as possible. I think that's kind of weird. I think that's like, because then you end up turning into like the Fonz, where you're like 50 years old and like still hanging around the pool hall trying to get laid, and it's like, because and that's the other thing too. I wonder, and maybe you can answer this because you have more experience. And actually Destiny said this on in an interview with Sneeko. Um,
Hmm.
I don't think the major after that sort of like grace period, that sort of like training wheel period for like the social foundation, the only skills that you will develop from there on, is how to fuck girls. Like, so for example, I
Yeah.
didn't find much carryover from like learning pickup to how to get a girl into a relationship, or how to like find a girl to get in a relationship with, or how to sort of like, maintain a relationship, or how to make,
Mhm.
even how to make friends to some extent, or how to maintain friendships. It got me in the door, but everything else was like, it branched off into different sort of skill sets. Like, you can be the best pickup artist in the world. You can like go out and like almost like 90% of chicks you like run into, it's like, oh, what if I can get them in bed? Okay, but I don't think that that's going to translate to like finding a girl you want to be in a relationship with. I don't think there's that much crossover, unless you're like one of those weird guys who's like, was it Rolo Tomasi who is like, you should game your wife? Or it's like the like Red Bull dudes will say weird shit like that. It's like, yeah, you gotta continuously game and like pick up your wife. It's like, what the fuck, bro? Like that's really weird.
Yeah, no, I don't know much about Rolo Tomasi. The only times I've
You don't
seen
have
of
to.
him was when either Alex was trashing him, or when Destiny was trashing him, or when Destiny and I made that video. When yeah, we had like on my channel, like we had a video where we went through his book. That was like the only time where I really looked into him. Also, like he's just not interesting to me. But I'm responding to the like whether pickup is effective in relationships. So, at least there was an earlier point before that when you talked about how like when you're 50, like you might not want to have sex with more girls, whatever, like you'll be stuck in that phase. A lot of people just enjoy that. Like I'm pretty sure most dudes, if they were able to get laid a lot, if they had this skill to get laid a lot, and they were in like maybe they were either not in a relationship or they were in relationships that were more open, a lot more guys would keep having sex like with people as long as they could because internally we all have a desire to get laid a lot. It's just you could be 80 years old one day, the desire will still be there. It's just the
Well,
way it is. That doesn't mean you need to act on it. Doesn't mean, but there's no harm in it. It's like, it's just like a feeling. It feels good. But for relationships, just to respond to the second point, um, I think pickup is like teaches you the first step in, but it doesn't teach you the rest of it. Because if you want to get into a relationship, Alex, the way he recommends it is to go through casual sex first, find someone who you like occasionally hook up with, but you really click with, and then get serious with them if you really feel like a connection with them. But yeah, so I'd say pickup is like the first step,
mhm.
but it's not the remaining stuff. So it's like if you're trying to get in a relationship, you'll do the pickup stuff at first to learn the basics. But then once you go to the more like to deeper towards relationships, then yeah, it's not gonna help you.
So yeah, so I agree. It's like, I think that first like training wheel period to get that social
Mhm.
foundation, that's like great. That's like a good starting point. But then when you get to like a certain point, they branch off into two completely different spheres. Like trying to like get into like find a girl who you can like really click with and have a good relationship with and maintain that relationship is a completely different skill set than like just trying to like fuck girls at the club or get them home with you. So yeah, at that point, I don't think it's very useful in that regard. But to your second point, I do agree to some extent. that well, sorry, I do agree that like obviously we all have sexual drives and most people want to have sex, but the difference there is, do you want to have sex with, do you just want to have sex or do you want to have sex with different girls? That's sort of, I think, the difference. Because if you're a guy and you just want sex, then that's sort of like the irony of like the whole pickup thing. If your goal is for just sex, I would presume that the idea would be to find a girl you click with and then get her into a relationship, right? Because then you have that person there and you're out having sex as much as you both want. It seems like in that case, it seems like it would be a lot easier to like sort of like get sex or to have sex than going out to the club every week or every weekend and trying to find a new girl. And like not only that, but like the amount of like, even if you're successful, the amount of like prep work, you got to buy drinks, you got to put in a lot of time investment and all this shit just to, find a new girl to fuck. And that's sort of, I think, another thing where like the pickup artist thing sort of like veers off. Is the goal to just get sex, or is the goal to have sex with as many girls as possible? Because I think those are two different things, right? It's different to like, hey, if I have, this is kind of what's funny about like the whole red pill thing about like if a girl has sex. Have you ever heard the term roasty?
No, I don't think so.
It's like it's the idea that a lot of red pill dudes have, where it's like if a girl gets fucked by enough dudes, her like vagina will like become all like flappy and gross. Yeah, no, it's fucking stupid. But what's funny about that is that a lot of these red pill guys don't realize it's like, what difference is a woman who has had sex with 100 men and a woman who
Yeah.
has had sex with the same man 100 times? Not like there's nothing.
Mhm.
Like there's no difference. The vagina is still being fucked 100 times. Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
so for pickup, it kind of seems, and this is kind of where it gets a little bit more into the we can kind of go into this about men's validation. Or here's a better, here I can ask you this question: would you rather have a girl who you really click with and get into a relationship with and have sex like 100 times, or would you rather, or actually, sorry, let me rephrase it. Who would you have more respect for? Who would you have more respect for as like a man who's in a relationship with a woman and she's the only woman he's ever had sex with, and they have sex a lot and they have a great sex life, or the guy who has had sex with 100 women, 100 different women? Because whenever I hear like the red pill pickup sphere, the number of
Mhm.
women that a guy has slept with always seems to be like the factor. It's not so much like how many times have you had sex with, because a guy could have sex with only 5 women, but they could have had sex like a total of 1,000 times. Of course, those 5 women. Whereas a dude could fuck 100 women, but if he only fucked them once each, that guy's probably doesn't have as much sex or sexual experience as the other guy. Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
it's there's sort of like a weird thing there where it's like, is it about the amount? Is it about getting sex or fucking a bunch of different girls?
Yeah, when it comes to who do I respect more, it's kind of a weird question just because for me, like the amount of partners or even how if you had a partner or whatever, like that doesn't change whether you should be respected or not. Like it's like uh, someone is not less of a man because they don't get laid as opposed to someone else. But I guess if we were to answer in terms of who do I think is like yeah, I'm not sure because when you say respect, you mean like, because I don't really disrespect anyone based on whether they get laid or not or if it never get laid or whatever, right? Like, I don't think anyone should do that.
Or here's a better way to put it. Who do you think, like, let's take a guy who's like really socially inept, a guy who's just like trying to get into pickup and he's like he really wants to
Mhm.
get laid. Who do you think that guy would like in his mindset, who do you think that guy would be more keen to like be impressed by?
Oh yeah, that guy will be more impressed by the guy who can get laid 100 times with 100 different girls. I mean, but
Yeah.
that's because if you have a skill, it's like if you have a skill that gets you laid 100 times, this means like you've done it enough times that you know exactly what needs to be done to get there. Well, if let's say you had only one partner, even if it was a great relationship, you only have one experience. It's like the reference experience from the meme, the pickup artist meme from back in the day. I don't even know if people still use that term, but it's like if you only have one reference experience, it's like you don't really know if your advice will apply to other women.
But why does that? But if your goal, because I would assume that the guy, because most guys, we would assume most guys who get into pickup want sex, right?
Yeah.
That's what they're after. So that's sort of my vision, where it's like, why would you? It seems like, again, if I was like, hey, I just want sex. How do I get
Mhm.
sex? The If I were giving guys advice, I'd be like, find a girl, get her into a relationship, and then like you guys can have sex as much as you want. Whereas if
I
I'm
think that's
telling
kind of
her,
bad advice though, because you're telling guys who want to get in relationships, no, who want to get laid, oh, just find one girl. Because if that person is only looking for sex, uh, relationships have a lot more than just sex, right?
yeah,
So it would be like, yeah, you'd be putting them, they'll end up having to do a lot more just for the sex.
but with the relationship on top of it. So yeah, so when we're talking about pickup, we're just talking about guys who are we're just talking about guys who just want sex,
Mhm.
just sex itself.
No, I mean, like, it depends. No, the reason I said that is just because in your case, you brought up a guy who just wants sex. So that's why I said for someone who just wants sex, probably just hookups is more than enough. But if someone who's looking for relationships, then it's a bit different, right?
Yeah. Well, I guess the point I'm trying to build to is that there's sort of like this sort of like this other factor. It's funny because I saw Erudite. Is it Erudite? Erudite? I don't know.
Yeah, every day,
She
yeah.
she was talking on a podcast with a couple of like red pill dudes, and she
Mhm.
said something that I thought was like very not controversial, but the guys had a really big issue with it. She
Mhm.
said, "It seems like guys value the number of women another guy has slept with as proof of sort of like social proof or status."
Yeah.
Now, I think that's pretty. Again, if we're talking about most guys, again, like I don't think you and I, maybe we're like past that point, but I think most guys, if we saw a guy who's like, I've had sex with 3 women, and then another guy's like, I've had sex with 100 women. It's like, whoa, man, that guy, he must be like super Chad, super whatever. I think for a lot of like younger guys, especially, they'll look to that
Yeah.
guy as like more of like the Chad, like more of like the alpha, like more of the guy they want to emulate. Um,
Yeah.
and so there's sort of
Huh.
like this weird thing here where it's like it's not about like the actual like the sex itself. It's almost about the social status that comes with saying that like I fucked 50 girls. And that's something that I actually sort of fell into where it it became more for me when I was kind of dating. I realized that like because again I could have sex with 100 girls, but those
Mhm.
girls could be like mean and rude and gross and
Yeah.
like ugly and just they just because I've slept with 100 girls doesn't really tell you that much about me as a person. Oh, I mean, or rather, all it tells you is that I can fuck 100 girls or that I have fucked 100 girls. I don't really. It
Mhm.
doesn't really like translate to well, hey, well, were those girls high quality? Were those girls nice? Were they were they good women? Were they cool? Were they chill? Were they cool? Um, and so yeah, there's sort of like this weird thing where it's like for when I'm trying to talk to guys, I'm like, do you want to again, do you want sex or do you want to be able to tell people that you've had sex with like 100 women? Because those two things I think are different, right?
Um, yeah, just give me a second to formulate a good response. Um, I feel like I can't explain why, but there is something really fun with having sex with lots of girls. Like, outside of just for validation and stuff, but even like validation, let's think, like, we all seek validation. Men seek validation, women seek validations in different spaces. Like, everybody's validation seeking. It's just the nature of being human. But I don't know. There's something really fun that I find with because I really love like casual sex. It's really fun for me. I can't even explain it, but like having sex with different people who look different, who have different personalities, it's just really fun for me. I don't know why, but it's just the way it is. But I feel like uh, I want to say that's what everyone should do because everyone has different goals, different needs, different desires and stuff. so people need to find out whatever they're into. But um, sorry, do you mind just repeating the question? There was something I was gonna say. I just got lost.
Oh no, I think so. I think you answered it. Where it's like
All right.
there is sort of beyond the idea of like having the validation of like, hey, I've had sex with 50 women. Because I think that there is a factor in there for a lot of guys where it's like
Yeah.
they think that fucking 50 women as opposed to like 5 women will make them feel more confident or more like a man. Where and that's kind of what happened with me, where I thought that I was kind of like when I got into pickup, I was kind of really miserable, and I thought it was because it's because I need to sleep with more women to get that confidence boost. And then I slept with 10 women, and then I didn't feel any better. And then I slept with 20 women, and then I didn't feel any better. And then 30, and then 40. And it was like I had fun experiences, like you said. Although I have to add something to that in a second. I had fun experiences, but the amount it I realized that I was like chasing validation. I was chasing I thought that like just fucking tons and tons of women just beyond like the actual like physical fun of it, which again, um, you would think would just be like you could still have that with one woman, um, but it was more about like proving to myself as a man, and that I feel like a man rather than manly. And the issue with that is that, and this is kind of what I find so ironic about a lot of red pill rhetoric, where it seems like a lot of red pill rhetoric is based around the idea that like, hey, you have to become your own man. You have to, become a man and prove to people you're a man. And yet 99%, or maybe not 9, but like a massive chunk, over 90% of red pill content I see, their view of what makes a man is completely based off the opinions of women. It's like your sense of self as a man is based off how women see you. Will they want to date you? Will they want to fuck you? Do they find you attractive? And I think that there is something to be said about that. I think there is a little bit, but it's kind of ironic that a lot of these like red pill dudes will complain about like gynocentrism and no one talks about like men's issues and like society's all about women's opinions. And then it seems like 90% of what they talk about, like how to be a man, is, and well, how do I know if I'm a man? It's like, well, it depends on how women respond to you. It's like that kind of is weird, right? It's sort of like a weird, like you said, I don't think, like now that I'm older, when I think of like what makes a man, I don't think of like I don't even think about women when someone answers me that question. Like what makes a good man? What makes a good man, or what makes someone masculine? Almost, if I were to answer that question now, I would not mention anything about women. If I was like 12 years old, I'd be like, yeah, the guy with like chicks on his arm, and that's kind of why, like, someone like Andrew Tate, you have a lot of like younger kids, they look to him as masculine because they see him with like pretty girls and they're like, oh, that's what makes him a man. But then of course, like you actually like look into the person that Andrew Tate is, and I would argue that like most people, despite what he might say, like the shit that he preaches, if you actually look at the stuff that he does and his behavior, that to me is not a man at all, whatsoever. And I fear that a lot of this stuff that a lot of guys are, they're trying to be, masculinity gurus because they're trying to be men. Deep down, it all comes down to they're really desperate for validation from women. And what I would advise to guys is you have to do your best to get a, and of course it's going to be very difficult. It's always going to be difficult. But you want to get to a point where your self-worth or your self-value is not put in the hands of like random women at the clubs or at the bars or on the streets or on like YouTube or whatever, because that's going to fucking kill you. You want it to be, of course, like we all seek validation, but in terms of like high quality relationships, you want to get that from close friends, from your family, from, people in your life who you consider high quality, not some that's how you want to judge whether or not you're getting validation or whether you're a good person, not whether or not some like drunk bitch at the club decides to fuck you that night or not. And I fear for a lot of guys that that's how they think they're going to get validation, as opposed to just like, well, look at the people close to around you. How do they view you? How do your parents view you? How does your family view you? How do your friends view you? That's how to become a man. That's what's masculine. Yeah. And oh, and the second part of that, to your point about the fun of casual sex, I do agree to some extent, where it's like, hey, it is kind of fun, the thrill of like, going on a first date and like meeting someone new. The the issue I had though was that as the more women I slept with, the more I realized, one, a lot of the experiences kind of sucked. Not necessarily because the girl wasn't, you know, nice, or or whatever, or she wasn't like attractive, but like we got in bed and like we were not sexually compatible at all. Like it was okay. It's like, okay, sex is fun, but like whatever. But for me, I think there is a novelty to that, like fucking a bunch of different women. But for me, as I got more sexual experience, I realized the best sex I was having was with women who I clicked with, and we continued to have sex after that. Like in all my relationships, the women I had relationships with, that was the best sex I had. Now, whether that's because there's a level of comfort there or because we vibed, because again, like I've had one night stands where I'll go to the club and like, yeah, I'll bring a girl home and we'll have sex, but like I didn't even know this bitch. I didn't even know who the fuck. All we did was I might as well have been fucking like a fucking like sex doll. Like there was nothing there. There was no personality. There was no vibe. There was no emotion. There was no feelings.
Yeah.
And again, I think there is like it can be like fun, the novelty, like the the thrill of like finding someone new. But at least in my opinion, and I think again, if we're talking about someone like who's like in his 50s, I think for most guys, especially if they're able to kind of have like like depending on how many women they slept with, like 10, 15, 20, I think it does kind of lose its veneer, at least to some extent, because you kind of realize that you're like, I'm putting all this effort into trying to get this girl, and then I don't even know if the sex is going to be good, or I'm going to like have a good, I'm going to even like this girl if I get her back to bed. That's kind of how I feel. I'm not saying that like it's hard, because like I don't want to tell guys like don't do this if you want to, but at least in my experience, I feel like a lot of guys, and like a lot of guys in my friend groups and stuff, they kind of agreed where it kind of lost its magic. It just kind of like got old. It just kind of like, okay, I'd rather find a chick who I can like, who I really vibe with and like I really like, and like do that, as opposed to putting all the effort into like sleeping with 10 different women over the course of 10 weeks or something.
Yeah. I mean, it might be different for me just because I do think I might be a sex addict, but I don't know. For me, it's like I kind of need it. I need that feeling of like having a new girl every week. I don't know. It's just for me. It's like I couldn't see myself not enjoying that. But I guess if I were to be getting laid like with different like multiple different girls like a week, it would be too much for me. I'd be like overwhelmed by it. But I don't know. For me, it's just like it's a feeling that I really need to fulfill, and I really enjoy fulfilling it. And by what I know, Destiny has the same thing. Uh, but again, I don't know because I feel like when it comes to validation, I do think though that if you put your whole self-worth on how many girls you get laid with, that's really bad for you. Because if you don't get laid with someone, if this is because sometimes like there could be like a week or two where I'm just not getting laid, like either I'm not finding girls or whatever. That's always gonna happen. If but if you put your validation on before you're getting girls, you're gonna be miserable because there's so many other factors that are out of your like not in your control. But because I know I've seen, I won't say names, but like there are some like big dating coaches out there who put their whole worths on how often they get laid, and they'll count how many girls there is, like they had sex with, and that stuff is really cringy. Like I feel like once you're good enough, like sometimes you feels like a lot like more like a lot hornier. Sometimes you won't be as horny, or sometimes like you'll find a good like a girl you want to get in a good relationship with, and you'll settle down. Like whatever, different people have different experiences. But at least for me, in my opinion, even if I were to get in a relationship, probably like the amount I would be like a completely open relationship if I were to do it. But I feel like even if I were to be in a relationship, I would always be seeking out the novelty, but it just would not be as frequent. Maybe it would be like a lot more like occasional. But yeah, I feel like if the reason you're getting laid is for the validation, that's really bad. But if you're just getting laid because it's really fun to get laid, I don't see anything wrong with it.
So this is actually something I talked about in my video. Um, and I don't disagree that like I think it's different to have like there's a different thing to say I want to have a number of like a amount of variety in my sex life. You know, like hey, maybe me and my girlfriend do this, but then me and this other chick we do this, or maybe I'm into like this kink and this girl likes that, but not this girl does that. Like that's one thing. Um, but in that case, that's like a variety of experiences, and that's I think that's like a different thing than just like a variety of like just like different women. Because again, a lot of the women that I slept with, like we had sex, but like it was like okay, like it was like the sex was like okay, it was fine. Like, but then I would have sex with another girl and be like way better. And that's depending on like the circumstances, our vibe, our relationship, and that stuff. However, something that I realized when I was like dating is I realized that, and this is kind of when I sort of knew that like I was kind of probably like kind of fucked up or like it was like I was in a bad space. I got more validate. I enjoyed it. The enjoyment for me was knowing the girl wanted to fuck me as opposed to the sex. So for example, if I'm at the bar and like I'm with the girl, we're talking, and it's like, hey babe, do you want to like go back to my place and like fuck? And she's like, yeah, sure. I almost think that like I could walk out right then. It's like, okay, cool, thanks, and just leave. Because at that point I realized that like it wasn't the sex that was like I was looking for. It was the fact that the girl wanted to have sex with me. And that was when I started to like that was when I realized like okay, something's wrong here. Like this probably isn't good. Um because I wasn't just trying to get the sex to get the sex. It was I was trying to get the validation from this woman because hey, if she's agreeing to have sex with me, that's what I need because oh good, now I feel better. Now I feel masculine because this girl wants to fuck me. Doesn't matter. I had sex with like 30 women before that, but it didn't matter. It was I whatever. They already slept with me. Who cares? This woman, this random chick in this bar, if she says yes to me, that is my self worth. And if she says no, I'm gonna feel like shit. And that's like for me, that's when I realized, oh fuck, I'm putting my entire sense of self validation in like random women who I don't even have like I don't even know if I like these women or I'm just trying to like get them in the bed. Do you think for you in your again, I'm just asking. Do you think in your case that that's part of it, where it's like the casual sex is about not necessarily just about like having the sex or having sex or different experiences, but the fact that it feels good to have multiple women trying like agreeing to have sex with you?
Yeah, just give me a second. If like when I was in university, so like maybe a couple of years in when I started getting laid, I felt like back then it came from a bad mindset. It came from a validation mindset where I was going in because in my mind I thought that if I get a girl to have yeah if I convince a girl to have sex with me, it's gonna feel like it's gonna give me that validation that I was seeking, and it would make me feel like, oh, like I'm worthy of something better. I'm a better guy now. Like it boosted my ego a bit. But sometimes like I'd have a girl who I'd have sex with, and they would make it clear that they never wanted to see me again. It was just like a one night stand and that's it. And I would take it kind of like I would be kind of hurt by it. And like I remember, I think I brought this up when I was talking to Annalicia and Destiny during that one conversation the three of us had. I think I brought up the story of how I was in a frat party. Uh, I met this girl. Uh, yeah, I hooked up with her, and then I was trying to like, oh, we should exchange numbers and connect another time. And she was like, hey, like just so you know, I don't want to see you again. This is the this is the only time I want to see you. Like I don't want to have to see you. I don't want to interact with you ever again.
Don't
But she said it in
don't
kind of
tell
a rude
anyone
way.
that we did this or something like that.
Yeah, not even that because we didn't know each other. But just like, yeah, this is it. I'm never seeing you again. But like the way she said it, it kind of hurt in the moment. But eventually, I kind of just moved on. I was like 20 when that happened, but 21 maybe. Yeah. Um,
I think I'd still feel
But
that way, even at that age. If it was like, if a girl said that to me after we fucked, I'd kind of feel. I think that would hurt. I would rather her reject me outright than to have sex with me and then be like, "Yeah, I'm never seeing you again." I'd be like, "Oh shit, okay." I feel like that would hurt my
yeah,
feelings more.
yeah. But back then, to be fair, I also like I had sex at that point for like 3 times or maybe twice, so I probably was really bad at it. But I don't know, it hurt me. But then even nowadays, I kind of realize that when I go into an interaction with a girl when like we're gonna have sex, mentally I already assume it's gonna be a one time only. But so I don't have the same expectations, so I'm not hurt by it, you know? Like but then also like now that I'm a lot better at having sex, women tend to be more like I don't get that kind of aggressive response anymore. People they don't want to chill with me because I know how to pleasure a girl now. But I'm not flexing. It's just it took me like a lot of trial and error, like a lot of trial and error before I figured it out. And but yeah, I
Also,
don't know. Yeah.
also PSA to guys out there, because I don't know if this is your experience. I so during while I was kind of doing my whole dating thing, I met a woman who was I was like 25 at the time. I think she was like 32, and we went out a few times, and we were sleeping together one time, and I was going down on her, and she literally stopped me, and she was like, "You don't know what you're doing. Let me show you." And I was like, and that from then on, like from there on out, it was like like it really helped in my future relationships. Um, I think one of the big issues with a lot of like men and women and sex is that we kind of almost view sex as like sort of like a performance, like it's something that we're doing to like, especially guys. That's like I have to fuck her good. I have to. It's like here's or like I'll see like videos or it's like here's like the perfect sex positions and stuff like that. Um, I think the issue with that is that like it's sort of like a lot of guys treat sex as like a performance where it's like I have to like prove myself during sex or I have to impress her. And the issue with that is that you're especially if you're sleeping with a lot of different women are all different. Women are all gonna like different things. They're all gonna have different kinks and different quirks and certain positions. Someone will love certain positions. Other one will like be really painful for them. Um, so the biggest thing you can do, the best thing you can do, the most essential thing you can do, and I'm not even coming from like a consent standpoint. That is also very important. But just from like a general like to make this a pleasurable experience is to check in with the partner. Check in with, hey, does this feel good? Do you like that? Because I think especially I've run into this with women too. Sometimes women will feel if a guy's like, I don't know, going down on them and like it's clear he does not know what he's doing or has any experience, sometimes she doesn't want to say anything. It's like, well, I don't want to, I don't want to kind of like make him feel bad if he's not doing it right. But then it's like, but then why are you doing it? What's the point of this then? What are you doing this for? You're having sex. You're supposed to be having a pleasurable time. If he's doing something that isn't pleasurable for you, or he thinks it is, then this isn't going to be a fun encounter. Um, so yeah, it's like, hey, does this feel good? What do you like? Tell me what you like. Stuff like that. I think for some reason, like that is seen as like, for some people, like taboo or like you're not supposed to do that because that makes you seem insecure. Or like you should just know what to do. And it's like, no, bro, like just ask. Like, tell me exactly what you want me to do to you. I'm like, yeah, it's fine, cool. It's like you're two people having. Again, you're supposed to be having fun in bed. You're not supposed to be putting on a performance, I guess. And I think, especially like younger people or people who don't have as much experience, I think they almost view sex in that light. And I think that's really, really bad. And I think that kind of carries over to, the talk of consent and sort of like how, it's like, oh, well, if I ask to do this, is it going to kill the mood or something? And it's like, like, again, not only does that like enter like a really strange, like moral, ethical boundary where a lot of fucked up shit can happen. It's also just from a general like, if you want it to be a good experience, just ask the person when you go to a restaurant. The waiter asks you what you want to eat, right? They don't just give you something. It's like, here, you're gonna love this. It's like, no, what do you want to eat? That's kind of that's how sex should be when you're in bed together. Communicate. Tell each other what you like. Tell each other what feels good. Don't be shy about that.
Yeah, there are some basic things I feel like every girl will like, but at the end of the day, if you're not sure, it's always better to ask. And how to finger a girl the right way and stuff. Like we can explain to someone like verbally, but it's another thing to try it out and to get a girl's instructions on how to do it and stuff.
Well,
But
even yeah, even in
yeah,
that case, if you're fingering a girl, just be like, "Hey, they feel good," and then hopefully the girl would be like honest with you. It's like, "No, go here, go to the left," or something like that. Like that can be really intimate. That can be really hot. Um,
yeah,
yeah, I think it's like again, I think so many guys feel like. Funny enough, I actually, in my experience, the more sort of like, what's what I'm looking for? Not necessarily inexperienced, but the more sort of like attentive I was in bed, most women I've been with were they respond very well to it. I think a lot of guys think that like, oh, if I ask for if this feels good, like she's gonna think I'm like a beta or like I'm not cool or something, or like if I ask a girl like, do you want to have sex, she's gonna think, oh, he's a beta, he should have just gone for it. One, you don't want to do if there is a girl like that, do not ever fuck that girl. Do not ever talk to that girl again. Like if it's a thing where you're like, hey, do you want to have sex? And then she's one of those girls where it's like, oh, that was kind of a turn off. I don't want to fuck you anymore, and like she gets mad. Good, cut, get out of there immediately. Um, but yeah, but like if you're in bed, like don't be afraid to kind of like communicate. And in most cases, I found that women that I've been with were incredibly. I've never had a girl get turned off for me like asking like, does that feel good, or like how do you want this, or like checking in with her. I think a lot of guys think that a lot of girls will say feel that way, but in my experience, I don't think I've ever had a situation like that.
yeah. And one thing too, when it comes to fingering a girl, if you know you're doing it right or not. I mean, for me now, just because I've done it so many times. Okay, yeah, it sounds like I'm flexing when I'm being. Oh yeah, for people like me who done it so many times. Yeah, no, I just mean like it depends. You know, when you're fingering a girl, like it's like inside it starts like tightening up around your fingers. And then also you'll see on her face she'll start moaning and stuff. But I always usually it's just a habit of mine to check with a girl. Like I always ask a girl like how it's going. And I always and if I'm not sure I always check with a girl. I don't know, it's just like a it's become more of a habit of mine now.
And
And
you can do it in a sexy way. You have to be like,
yeah.
are you pleasured? Like you have to like, you can be like, yeah, you like that, you little bitch, or something like that. You can like you can make it hot or something. But yeah, it's this idea that like I think so many guys feel like sex is supposed to be like this. Kind of going back to the whole idea of like a validation. A lot of guys feel that like their sexual prowess or their sexual ability is like indicative of their self worth. And it's like, yeah,
Mhm.
if I fuck a girl real good, then that proves that I'm a man. And it's like, well, it's supposed to be fun, bro. Like, why? Like, you're treating it like it's a fucking like Juilliard audition that you're trying to like prove yourself to this girl. It's like just have fun, like just
Yeah.
relax, calm down, and just have fun.
With someone in chat, I think Lectival Zahod, something, I don't know how to say that name. But it kills the vibe. I mean, it does kill the vibe if you ask questions all the time. Like if let's say you're having sex with a girl and every like 30 seconds you're asking a question, then
Of
it's like
course,
it's
yeah.
yeah.
Don't
But
be like that
like if you're not
fucking.
sure, like yeah.
Don't be that fucking college. You ever see that college PSA where it was like, "Can I take your bra strap off?" Yes. Can I take the other one off? Yes. And it's like, okay, just
Dude, I've
at that point
cited this.
at that point, why not just say like, can you get naked? Like, sure. Like, God, you skipped like 50 fucking steps. Yeah, that's like the other extreme. I'm the other extreme is really bad, where like you don't communicate at all and you never check in with your partner. The other extreme where you're like, can I touch you here on your hip? Like, and she's already like naked in your bed. It's like it's at that point it's more of a thing where it's like you want to have enough, you want to establish enough trust and communication where you can trust that your partner, and this is in part why I actually, going back to the idea of sort of like casual sex versus someone I've been with multiple times. um One, not only do I know what that person likes and that person's boundaries and what they like, dislike, but also if we've been with each other a few times, there's a level of comfort and trust built up where if I'm doing something that they don't like, they will tell me. They can tell me. They because if you're like, if you're with a girl for the first time and like, you're fucking around and it's the first time, um, and she's like let's say she's blowing you, but it kind of hurts, like she's not doing it right, like like obviously like you should say it's like, hey, like don't do it like that, but like sometimes it's like, ooh, I don't know you, I don't want to hurt your feelings. And again, I've heard that a lot with women when it comes to dudes like fingering them or eating them out. Well, they'll be like, yeah, he didn't do it right at all. I didn't feel a thing, but I didn't want to hurt his feelings. And it's like he would much rather you tell, like, because you're not helping anyone in this situation. You're not getting pleasure from it, and the next guy the next woman that he has sex with is gonna hate it too. So just be like, hey, yeah, I have to guide him. But yeah, it's if you can build up that trust where it's like, hey, if I'm doing something that you're not comfortable with, I want you to feel comfortable enough to tell me and communicate that to me. And I think that happens usually before you even get into the bedroom. So for example, and again, I think this is actually kind of circling back another issue I have with sort of like pickup techniques where sometimes it'll feel like, or what's, I don't know um if it's still taught in the pickup sphere. Have you ever heard the term last minute resistance, LMR?
Sorry. Yeah. Of course, yeah, I know that term. Austin Summers taught it to me.
Yeah, that shit's fucking stupid. So the idea
Uh,
behind it is like, if you're at a bar with a girl and she's, it, you're trying to get her home, and then even if she wants to fuck you, she still might say right before that she doesn't want to fuck you because she doesn't want to seem like a slut. And like, here's how to get around that. And it's like, and again, I don't know if this is something that's still like within the pickup sphere, but that shit is fucking cringe. Because the idea behind that is like, you're not listening to what the girl is saying, or you're assigning a different intention behind what she's saying. And this is kind of why it gets sort of iffy when it's like, if a girl says, hey, I'm not having sex with you tonight, it the issue is that depending on the context, that could mean the girl is absolutely going to have sex with you, or that might mean the girl absolutely does not want to have sex with you. Um, and that's sort of like where it's like the advanced pickup game, where I think it gets like, it turns into like a fucking clusterfuck, where it turns into like a really really bad scary space, because it starts to turn into this idea of like, you kind of have to like get over a girl's objections to have sex, where it's like, if the girl is objecting, why are you having, like, why are you trying to get the sex if the girl's objecting? Like, it's, and then like people will say it's like, well, all girls do that. It's like, well, first of all, not all girls do that. And second, if the girl is doing that, first of all, if the girl is doing that, I probably wouldn't even want to have sex with her. I'd probably want a woman who's like confident in her sexuality, or doesn't feel like slutty for having sex with a guy. I think like that'd be, I don't know if I'd want to have sex with that girl. Um, but it leaves the door open for, unless you're a guy with like a lot of social experience and a lot of like, you're able to read body language and sort of like read the vibe. Um, if you're a guy who does not, who kind of can't tell the difference between a yes or a no that means no, or a no that means yes, that's when the shit turns like, it gets really fucked up. Because you can have a guy who's like, yeah, she said no like 10 times, but then I kept trying, and then she had sex with me and didn't say no, but she didn't say yes either. So yeah, I must have, that was her anti-slut defense or something. And it's like, no, that's when it gets into like a really weird, fucked up situation. Especially when we're dealing with guys who, by their own admission, lack a tremendous amount of social skills and a social calibration and social experience. Again, if you're a guy who's like very well socially adjusted, you can probably like, oh, okay, I can tell this girl's saying this, in in this certain way, and I can read her body language and yada yada yada. Um, but even so, like, even for me, like, even as someone who I think I'm very good at reading that stuff, I still err on the side of caution. I don't like just, I don't take a I don't take not a no as a yes. I take a yes as a yes. And I think when you start like steering away from that, I think that's when it starts to get kind of weird.
yeah, I don't. I'll be honest, last minute resistances. It's not something I it's not something I have any method on like how to overcome it or whatever. I don't really. It's not my. I don't think I've. I know Austin Summers taught it to me, but I don't think I've ever applied it ever.
Yeah, and I think that,
Um,
and like in defense, I know that like pickup has gone through like a huge like renovation over the last like 3 or 4 years because like RSD fell apart. A lot of guys who had like huge pickup channels like completely got deleted after YouTube did like a huge purge.
yeah,
Who was that? Who was that black guy who like would film? He would pick up girls and then film them at his apartment.
Justin Wayne.
Yeah, remember that? And like he got it. It was like it was so fucked up because I remember back then in like 2015, no one
Yeah.
that kind of seemed like, oh yeah, this is a thing that's on YouTube, and it's like, what? You can't fucking do that. It's like, oh well, I blurred her face. It's like, what the fuck? That doesn't mean anything. What are you, fucking insane? And then of course
I
like
saw that video when I was in high school because like back when I wasn't able to watch porn, so no, no, it was like weird. It was super fucking weird. I saw that video. I was like,
oh yeah,
even in
the
high school, I thought like, yeah, this shit's not. It was something. I felt like gross. I saw it and I was like, yeah.
yeah,
I didn't watch the whole thing. I just like, as soon as you got to the sexual part, I just closed the thing. But Justin Wayne was faking his videos. Like those girls were in on it.
that's kind of what I figured too. And that's Mac, you're thinking of the Black Mirror episode with John Hamm. No. Yeah, some people in chat are like, "What?" And it's like, "Yeah, man, pickup pickup now is not what pickup how it used to be like 5 or 6 years ago was a shit show. You had like the whole RSD mystery. It got fucking cringe. It was like really rapey, really just like creepy and
Yeah.
just really predatory. And that's why a lot of those RSD guys ended up they got their channels deleted. Oh, remember Roosh? Did you ever watch
Oh
Roosh?
God, Rushby.
Roosh V, man. Ah,
Oh man, Return
the
of the
good old
Kings. The thing
days.
with like
Return of Kings. Oh
Return,
no.
it's like that's where Donovan Sharp came out of too. Like,
Oh,
um,
fuck Donovan Sharp. He's still doesn't he still have his channel?
dude, like he challenged Destiny to a debate on Fresh and Fit. Destiny agreed. It's been like postponed like 5 or 6 times now.
Yeah, I have a feeling he's well. The thing with that is that like I feel like it's just a flex. Like he'll like debate me and then like he'll like back off. It's like kind of like what Rolla does,
Yeah,
where he'll
Roller
say
did
shit.
that to
Yeah,
Destiny.
he'll say shit like it's like I'll talk to anyone, and then when the thing comes up, he's like, well, why should I? Yeah, no. But also, I don't think Donovan Sharp. He's someone who I don't think you could. At the very least, I think that Fresh and Fit, as chuckle fucks as they are, as like someone that Myron is a very skilled like debater. He's very articulate. He's very even if what he's saying is fucking dog shit, he's very good at like communicating his worldview in a way where he's able to kind of like any objection you will give, he can give a counter. He's very skilled in that department. I think
Yeah.
that's why I think debating is like a certain skill. There's you can you can be a good debater. You can have a terrible position. You can have a terrible position and still debate it in a effective, rhetorically effective way. That doesn't mean you're right, but it's you can be a good debater. So yeah, I to give Myron some credit. I don't like to give him a lot of credit, but like I think that he is at least in that regard. Fresh is an idiot. I don't even know why he's
Yeah.
there. It's so funny that he's still there. Like it's just like he's like the punk kid brother who just kind of hey Myron. But like someone like Donovan Sharp, I don't know if Destiny wants to. Does Destiny kind of want to make it happen?
Destiny really, because Donovan Chop has made a bunch of insults at Destiny, so I feel
Oh,
like Destiny
okay.
has like a personal like feeling against him.
Yeah,
But I don't think it's ever gonna happen. But yeah, Myron Gaines is a really good debater. Like
absolutely.
people like I like Fresh and Fit are just dumb. Fresh is yeah, Fresh Fresh is, but Fit isn't dumb. Like he's like do you know who Pixie or Straighter Raid are?
No, Pixie sounds familiar. I don't know
They
them
are
too
like in
though.
Destiny's orbit quite often, but yeah,
Okay.
just like they debated Sneeko at his place, and Sneeko was like, "Oh, you guys should go on Fresh and Fit." They went on Fresh and Fit. In my opinion, they got destroyed. Like they had some good points here and there, but overall, like they got destroyed by Fit by Myron.
Yeah.
But it's just because I was thinking of getting into debating red pillars. The reason I said not to do it is because the time investment and the return at gain was just not worth it. Because when I think of what I want my community to be, like right now I'm doing when it comes to debate, I'm mostly debating feminists, but I kind of want to have an audience of more progressive minded people, but not
Hmm.
crazy progressive minded people. Like I want like a moderate progressive. So I feel like debating feminists is probably the way to go to pull from that audience to keep getting like progressives in my space. Just because like I realize that even if I were to like, because I would have to spend maybe 8, 9 hours of just really learning red pill talking points before debating it and how to properly respond to every claim. But it's just not worth my time. But I feel like when they went to debate them, they didn't do any of that effort in. They didn't spend any time like actually learning the talking points. But it's like a conspiracy theory. You really need to be invested in it to be able to challenge the elements if that's wrong. And I just I don't care enough to do that. But with oh yeah, one thing I wanted to bring up was that uh just give me a second. Oh yeah, what it was a wild thing. What got pickup artists con? I don't know if you know the story behind why pickup on YouTube changed. And how that completely changed the manosphere. But I'll be super quick with it. So initially, there was pickup content was like infield footage were doing going viral. That's why you had simple pickup that blew up, and then you had all these prank channels like the Whatever channel, which is now the Whatever podcast, but before it was just Whatever. Um,
I would rather. I cannot tell you how much I hate the Whatever podcast. Not because, not only because like half the shit they say is like really stupid, but because they're like so boring. I don't know who
yeah,
the main guy is. Like at least Fresh and Fit's like a shit show, but at least
Brian,
it's like
Brian,
yeah, that dude is the most boring motherfucker I've tried like watching episodes of it, and he is the most boring person I've ever met in my life. At least Fresh and Fit, the show is a shit show. It's awful.
yeah.
It's like watching like the Jersey Shore. Like you can't look away. The Whatever podcast is just like, and again like the
Mhm.
clips are better because like they take the highlights. But I tried like watching like a full thing, and it was just like it was him and like four to like 19-year-old like daffy bitches or something, and it was and like they weren't even talking, they weren't even arguing, they were just sitting
Yeah.
there like oh this, and it was the most boring shit I've ever heard in my life. And so yeah, at least Fresh and Fit's like a fun, entertaining shit show for the worst reasons. But God, that Whatever podcast is so cringe. I didn't know they did pranks before that. Damn.
Yeah, they started as a prank channel, but yeah, in high school, they were my favorite prank channel. At least one of my favorites. Maybe Vitali ZDTV was up there as well, um, which is like another shit show. But
Yeah, all the
these
kids
guys
in
would
chat are like, who the fuck are these people?
listen. I'm a kid as well. Okay, I am. Oh yeah, come now, but you know, it hurts. It hurts to realize that. But yeah, with uh yeah, whatever became so what yeah, just to bring it back to what I was saying. So pickup blew up, but so you had whatever who was you started doing pickup, even though they were a prank channel. You had Big Dolls TV, which is still big today, who also did some pickup. You had like a lot of these like Jesse from Prank versus Prank. He tried pickup with simple pickup just because these guys blew up so much. They knew they were views to get there. But then there was Julian Blanc, right?
Yep.
Yeah, RST Julian.
RSD Julian, yeah.
He had his whole controversy, which you can look up online. I don't want to go into this. Then there was Sam Pepper, who like Sam Pepper did this thing when like he would approach women in public, and then he would grab their butts when they were not looking. But he had this weird thing where he put his arm inside his hoodie, but put the arm hoodie, the hoodie's arm thing,
Oh,
like he put that in his pocket. So from outside, it looks like his hand is in his pocket. Well, the truth is his hand is hidden in his hoodie, and then he would pull his hand out when the girl wasn't looking, grab their butt, and he called it the pinching prank. He called that, and that thing. It turns out like so it was a funny thing. So he did that. He got in so much trouble. That video blew up. It went like it became one of his most popular videos ever. Like in terms of like content, it was really good content. Not putting aside morality, just like in terms of effectiveness, it blew up. But part of blowing up meant that a lot of people were hating on it. Like most people were sharing
Hello,
it were
guys.
hating on the video, and he got so much hate. He released a second one where a girl went out to do that to dudes, and that video got hate as well. So then he had to make a third video where he was like, guys, let me tell you, this was fake. And then he showed how like actually I wanted to test you guys. I wanted to do a social experiment to see how would people react to when a man gets pinched in the butt against their consent, as opposed to a girl gets pinched in the butt against their consent. But you guys got outraged at both, so I'm proud of you, my community.
That's so bullshit. I
But
do not believe that for a second.
yeah,
Come
eventually
on,
he.
bro.
Do you know who losing all hope was freedom? The channel Laugh.
No, that sounds familiar though.
He
Sounds
used
familiar.
to
I've
be
never
really
actually
big.
seen it.
But he did like an interview with Sam much later. Sam pretty much admitted, I didn't know I was gonna get in this much trouble. I started getting in trouble, so I was like, fuck, what do I do? Then when he realized, do one with the guys. And then do a third video saying, oh, it's a social experiment to try to lower the trouble, the amount of backlash. But that thing, when combined with RSC Julian and a few small other stuff, got YouTube really concerned. So they started cracking down on pickup artist content. Like they shadow banned like almost every pickup channel on YouTube. But all that stuff that happened there really fucked over the manosphere. Because now pickup is no longer being pushed, but the need for guys to learn how to get girls was still there. So that's when the red pill and the black pill started blowing up. Since the pickup stuff wasn't there for them, they needed something else. And the red pill blew up and the black pill blew up as well, but not as much as red pill. But yeah, if
Yeah,
it went for that thing of YouTube cracking down on pickup, if that didn't happen, red pill stuff probably today wouldn't be that big.
well, that's fine. My friend Robbie, and he said Sam Pepper and the Terrible Prank. It's funny was like the one that like broke the camel's back because like that technically wasn't like I remember the prank channels. They didn't really have anything to do with pickup. They were kind of like pickup adjacent, like approaching strangers and shit, and like social experiment or whatever, which was
Yeah,
kind of a
and
code.
keep talking. I'm just gonna get some water. I'll be back. I'll just be there.
Um, but yeah, well, it's so I think I know the big issue was I know one of the big things, at least when it comes to pickup, was RSD. So people watching, there was a sort of like a pickup group or like a collaborative. I don't really know what you would call it. Called RSD, Real Social Dynamics, and a lot of people you probably see. They're probably still on YouTube today. What was his name? Owen Benjamin. RSD Tyler. He unironically went by the name Tyler Durden, which tells you all you need to know about like a lot of the shit. And then there was Mystery. I think he was part of RSD for maybe, I don't know, or I think he was. Oh no, sorry, that was Project Hollywood. I am thinking something completely different.
No,
Project,
mystery was way before
yeah,
OST.
that was before that. I'm thinking of what was it? Project Hollywood. That was like Mysteries. Project
I'm not
Hollywood.
sure. I was not around at that time.
Yeah, that was like old school. Yeah, Project Hollywood. It was kind of like RSD, where it was like a group of guys and they were all like doing like they were living in the same house, teaching pickup. Project Hollywood broke up because apparently all the guys started getting like they turned into like huge prima donnas and they started getting arguments and started getting catty with each other, and eventually they just broke apart. RSD, I don't exactly know what happened. Obviously, I think the whole like crackdown on pickup was a huge factor. Like a lot of people probably lost a good chunk of their income, and their business. I
Yeah, I
wouldn't
can
be
just
surprised.
answer what happened to RSC super quickly. So when Julian had that whole thing with CNN, so
Mhm.
CNN had him on, and he
Oh
completely
yeah, he
messed up
did
that.
have that. That was so cringe. He was on. There was a CNN like expose, but it wasn't
Yeah.
like super negative. They were just like, look at this guy, and then that's when people were like, oh my god,
Yeah.
that's so
So
cringe.
when that happened, right? So one sec. So basically, Julian he did this thing I think where he pretended to choke a girl on camera and
Oh
posted that,
yeah.
and he had another thing when he had he posted like this photo, this graphic that was supposed to be about like for battered women, like signs of abuse for them to know. And he jokingly, like, he tweeted that being like, "Hey guys, like here's how to like handle your woman or whatever," some weird shit. And it was meant to be like an edgy joke, but people took it super literally. But that thing completely, completely ruined RSD. So that's after that happened, they completely neutered down their content, and then they moved towards self-development because it was safer for them to do. And from a money perspective, the amount of effort you have to put in when it comes to pickup to make money, it's way more like if you put that same effort into self-development, you'll make a lot more money. So because do you know who Max Tomno is? RSD Max?
That sounds. Hang on, let me see. I think
But yeah,
RSD
he's
Max.
just like an RSD dude who now does like financial guru stuff, I think.
Oh, this is
Um,
the one guy. I know. I know RSD Tyler. He was like the main guy that I knew.
yeah, he was the top of the
Um,
head, yeah.
I don't know Max. I don't remember him.
But yeah, he's just like he was just one of the RSDs. But that guy, he had a pickup channel, I think at 200K subs. And now I think when his finance channel got to 20K subs, so 10 times less, he was making the same amount of money. So then he kind of realized too like there's just a lot more money to be made on self development, so RSD completely moved away from it. Yeah.
I forgot Julian was also that guy who did the Pikachu thing, where he would like go to Asian countries and like grab the chick's head and like shove her face down to his crotch and be like Pikachu, or like he would like joke about that. That was another big thing that I
Oh,
think.
I heard that. I heard that one. I've never seen it.
Yeah,
I
the
remember
Pikachu
hearing about it.
thing. Yeah, the Pikachu thing. Yeah, that was a couple years ago, but man, there's like fucking lore behind all that shit. Hang on, I'll be right back. I just gotta take a piss. Oh yeah, the Pikachu thing was insane. Yeah, that was huge. I remember that. Um, yeah, there's like whole. They should make like a biography on those that fucking cringe shit. Oh my god, like Project Hollywood, um, RSD, all that shit. Um, so okay, yeah, so to go back to I think what we mentioned before about like how when pickup fell off, it kind of became more about red pill. However, I would actually argue I think that it was probably going to happen anyway. Um, because I think the pickup movement as it existed was sort of like a gateway to sorts to like the current red pill movement. Not necessarily that it was like, hey, because that wasn't there, red pill took over, but because I think as the pickup movement was sort of like waning, we started to see the rise of the red pill movement. Because if you actually like look into a lot of like old pickup content, whether it's like mystery or, real social dynamics or Dunham and Sharp, or whatever, not Dunham and Sharp, the what was the black guy's name who filmed the chicks?
Justine Wayne.
Justin Wayne, sorry. Um, if you actually like looked a lot of their videos, that's when um, you started to see a lot of things that you hear in the red pill. So like hypergamy, status, displaying high value, yada yada yada. What's abundance mindset and shit like that. So you'll actually see a lot of the precursor, a lot of like the sort of like the precursor ideology of the red pill in the pickup artist community. It wasn't as explicit. It wasn't like fuck women, they're fucking stupid sluts. But you did see a lot of the planting seeds, like women are kind of predictable, women are kind of silly, they're kind of like, they're really easy to manipulate and kind of like get them to do what you want. Women will cheat on their boyfriends if they, find a better option, and they'll lie about it. Women will use like, women will say one thing but mean another. So a lot of that sort of stuff, even if it was still in the context of like trying to get with women, I think a lot of the pickup stuff kind of laid the groundwork for the red pill movement. And going back to your point, you had a lot of guys who would, they would follow the pickup stuff, to try and, get with women and, go out and, get relationships and get laid. But to your point earlier about talking about entertainment, there also was and I think this is like the majority. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say, like, I think the majority of guys who watch pickup even today probably are not watching it to put the advice into actual practice. At least from, like, when I like go to videos and I read the comments, it isn't so much like, hey, let me tell you about like women so you can like date them better. And then I'll read the comments, and it'll just be a bunch of like super butthurt, angry, bitter dudes who are just like, yeah, man, this just proves that women are like this, 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 and this. And so I think even a lot of pickup content, it stopped being about like, hey, here's how to get laid, here's how to like fuck chicks, here's how to like, be successful. It turned into, let's just kind of talk about how stupid women are. Let's just talk about kind of how selfish and shallow and, predictable women are. And I think, and again, I don't think with a lot of like old pickup content there was a lot of that, but there was like the groundwork, the seeds of it. Even if like you watch pickup content today, there's a lot of talk about women as like a collective. Like, this is how women are. This is what female nature is. This is like, hypergamy and all this stuff. And the issue with that, and this is kind of why, because here's like the irony to that. If we were to turn it around, and if we're talking to like, if I'm watching a channel about a woman who's telling guys who's trying to tell women like what guys want, it's so cringy because she's talking about, this is what men like, this is what men want, this is how men operate. And I'm watching it, I'm like, you are completely wrong. You were like, everything you're saying is like stupid, or it's like very like shallow, or it's like you're only talking about a very specific type of like boneheaded dude. Like, regular dudes don't really give a shit about this, or don't really care about this, or you're kind of like, you're painting all dudes with like a brush and saying like, this is how to get men, or this is how to like, work men. But then when you turn it around, and I think a lot of guys, if they watch that content, they would agree, like, yeah, that is kind of shitty. That is sort of objectifying, and sort of, it's not very helpful. It's actually sending a lot of women down the wrong path. But then if you turn it around, and then you'll see all these channels saying, this is how women are, this is how women operate, this is how women, and I want to differentiate. There's a difference between saying, hey, like if we're talking about dating, there's a difference between being empathetic to a woman's experience. Like, so for example, one of the things I tell guys is like, hey, look, if you're like at a bar and you ask a girl out and she gives you her phone number, and then like you text her the next day and she doesn't respond, or she never follows up contact, you can get mad about that. You can sort of be like butthurt about it. You can be disappointed, but also, consider that like, hey, maybe there was a past encounter where she was at the bar and a guy, asked for her number and she declined him, and then he called her a cunt. So maybe in that moment she gave you the number and didn't, not because she wasn't interested, but just because she didn't want to be mean and, reject you, or she was afraid it was going to escalate the situation. Now, in that situation, I'm not saying that the woman should have done that. I think it's better to be honest. I think it's always like you don't want to like get people's hopes up. You don't want to fuck with people. Or I shouldn't say that. You don't want to sort of like, even if you think you're being nice, you don't want to lead people on. Even if you're, if you're a girl, I've heard this from a lot of women. Like, he was really nice, but I wasn't feeling it. But I didn't make that clear to him because I didn't want to hurt his feelings. And it's like, no, you should let him know. Even if you're not doing it like even if you're doing it because you don't want to be mean or because you're trying to be nice or because you don't want to hurt his feelings, you should still kind of like let him know, because the alternative is that like you might accidentally lead him on for like a month or like for like weeks or something, and then the guy will be like it's gonna fuck him up even more. So there's a difference between saying that of like being empathetic to a woman's experience in the dating world and saying something like, this is how women are, this is what they respond to, this is, or if that woman didn't give you if that woman gave you a fake number, it's because she was, she was just fucking with you and she liked to, humiliate you. Ha ha ha. Who's that guy? I think Alex had him on the 33 Secrets. Do you know that channel? He's like a red pill pickup
I'm not
artist.
sure.
Yeah, Alex had him on. I think they had a debate a while back. That's a good example of a channel that kind of bridged the gap between pickup and red pill. That's what I'm talking about. Where
Oh, Matt Cross.
Matt
Yeah, I saw
Cross,
some
yeah.
weird shit when he talks about women, but I don't agree with.
That to me, Matt Cross is the perfect example of where the bridge is between pickup and red pill, where it's like it starts off with like, oh, you just want to get laid, right? It's like you just want to learn how women. Well, let me tell you about women. Here's how women are. Here's how all women are. This is what women do. This is how predictable they are. This is women's nature. And then once you've laid that groundwork of like all women are like this, all women respond a certain way, all women are the same, all women do this for this reason, it's very easy then to sort of like to take that into a bad direction, which is where we get current day red pill. Like women are all like this. This is why men don't want to date, because women all do this. They're gonna take your stuff. They're gonna cheat on you with Chad, and take your kids, and leave you out in the cold. And they're just gonna, or what's it called, beta bucks, alpha fucks, or something. It's like even if you get a woman, she's fucking Chad behind your back, and she's just using you for your resources because that's what women are, and that's her nature. And it's like, I honestly think that's what kind of like irks me when I hear like, oh well, this is pickup, this is red pill, this is black pill. Honestly, I think these are all kind of related. There's a lot of crossover. There's a lot of, a lot of black pill is just guys who watch red pill content, and instead of trying to get laid, they just gave up. And to be honest, like if you're like an average guy and you watch Fresh and Fit, how can you not be black pilled? The way they talk about women and relationships and marriage and love and sex and everything, it's awful. Like if everything that Myron was saying was true about women, why would you want to ever be in a relationship with a woman that they're greedy and they want resources and they'll cheat on you if they find a better Chad or alpha? And then yeah, there are a lot of guys who are like, yeah, fuck this. Why would I even want to deal with those women? And then they get black pilled and they start watching that fucking cringe Lord Wheat Waffles or like whatever. And it's like it's because the math of your face, and it's like, ugh.
Funnily enough, Wheat Waffles is no longer black pilled. He's red pill now.
Oh, wait. Okay, so yeah, so this is what I mean when I'm like, wait, so what changed? What changed? What in his mind changed that made him shift from one to the other?
I think he got a girlfriend.
That
I
honestly,
think
like,
so. I think so. I'm sure.
honestly, like that kind of is like my experience where like I've never seen a guy who's like super into red pill. I've never seen a guy who has like healthy relationships. That's like the biggest like takeaway. I've never seen a guy who has like really like good relationships with women be into red pill or black pill content. I very rarely see that. It's usually guys who either have no experience with women or have had a not even like a lot of bad experiences, like one bad experience. Like there are so many like guys who I've talked to in like the red pill space. It's like, yeah, this bitch in high school broke my heart, and here I am. And it's like, what the fuck? Or like Richard Cooper, uh, Entrepreneurs of Cars, that fucking cringe lord. He was a guy who's like his wife divorced him, and then all of a sudden, and that's what you see a lot with like red pill dudes. Like dudes will get divorced from their wife, and then they'll just go like full MGTOW or full red pill because again they're not coming from like a rational. They're not coming from a rational place of thought. They're just I had this bad experience, and now I'm drawing all women with the same brush because this is how all women are. And it's a shame because I think to some extent it's like, hey, if you're guys and you've had bad experience with women, I think that it could be good to like talk with other guys and like kind of like discuss the issues and sort of like cope with it that way. But the issue is that instead of it turning into a positive space where we're like actually talking about our issues and trying to help each other, it just becomes a giant like fuck women. Women are stupid whores and little children and like predictable little sluts and stuff like that. And that's when and that doesn't even help guys. It just leads to terrible outcomes for them. I've never seen a guy. Actually, maybe I can ask you this. I don't think I've ever met a guy where it seemed like after getting into red pill content, he was happier. If anything, he just got more bitter and angry. I've never seen a guy who got into red pill content and then he became a socially well-adjusted man. I don't think I've ever met a guy like that.
And it's really hard to say just because I don't watch regular content, so I don't know that much. Um, but I know from pickup content, yeah, I've known many guys who, and even myself, right? Like, I got into pickup because I was getting bullied like crazy in high school, and I in my mind I thought that because I had a lot of difficulties in social situations, so I thought that if I managed to start getting laid a lot, it would make me look cooler, and I would stop getting bullied. And eventually, obviously, like I grew out of that, but um for people, at least I know lots of people like me, pickup kind of changed our lives for the better. But I have a hard time seeing that happening to red pill people.
Yeah, because I think it's like sort of like the hump, right? Where it's like this is like pickup. Oh, wait, hang on. This is like pickup. You kind of hit like that like peak of pickup, kind of like we were
Mhm.
talking about, like where the training wheels come off, and you kind of just become
Yeah.
like a socially well-adjusted guy. And a lot of guys get out of pickup artist content, and they just kind of go and live their lives. But if you kind of stay on that path, then it starts to get weird. Then you start to talk about hypergamy and women female nature, and then from there it's a very like slippery slope into you know here's how to manipulate women, here's how to you know and then you start talking about like all women are like this is how all women are, and you stop seeing women as like individuals. You stop seeing as like instead of like and not and going even beyond like it's like oh well on average women have these preferences or on average men have these preferences. Going even beyond that, it gets into this like weird, it stops becoming like about education or trying to help guys, and it just becomes let's just frame women as like really shitty and really stupid and really dumb and really selfish and slutty because it makes us feel better. um and that's kind of where the peak is. So that's kind of why, again, I still defend pickup. I really think it can help. I think you gotta get your foot in the door and really help guys kind of get out there and kind of build a good solid foundation of social what's the word I'm looking for, calibration, or it's like a foundation of it. But at some point, again, like if I see a guy who's like, again, if you slept with like 20 women and I'm still watching pickup stuff, it's kind of like it's kind of strange. I don't know. What are you doing there? What are you trying? What's the goal here? I don't know.
Yeah, unless you're looking at it for like just purely entertainment purposes, it's like the only time it makes sense. But
Well,
even
yeah,
like
and
so,
well, even like
I copy Alex a lot. I'll be quick. I copy
yeah,
Alex a lot, so sometimes I'll watch his stuff. But even him, I don't really watch that much anymore. Like at most, if I have like one thing I kind of want to know, but I don't really do well, I'll take a look on his channel how he does it, or I'll just message him and ask. But beyond that, I don't really watch pickup content. Maybe like if I'm on my channel, sometimes I'll do like React content. Someone will be like, "Oh, you should look at this video, or whatever." But that's like the only time I really do it. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not really into it anymore, you know?
or it's like you've gotten to a point where like you're, and this is kind of where I think guys should be, and this is where I think they want to be a pickup. You have
Mhm.
enough confidence in yourself that you don't feel like you have to constantly be using like techniques and strategy to get women interested in you. You're kind of reached
Yeah.
a point where you're like, hey, I've had enough experience with women. I have confidence in myself. I've actually met guys where they get laid once and they completely are, it's like they're done. It's over. And by that I mean like they now have that sort of like self-confidence, cuz like the issue with guys, this is why it's so stupid to tell guys of like, well, just stop thinking about women or stop thinking about sex. If you take a guy, so like you do you mind can I ask what your
Mhm.
uh what I guess the word body count is, if you're comfortable sharing?
Um, I don't keep track right now. It's not that high. It's like somewhere between 50 to 60.
Okay. So in your case, let's say you go to a bar and you hit on a chick and she rejects you. Now, for you, you're a guy who's like, that might sting, that might suck. But you're a guy, it's like, wait a minute. I've talked to tons of women and a lot of women have found me attractive and a lot of women have slept with me. So just because this woman rejects me doesn't mean that doesn't mean I'm a loser. Doesn't mean other women don't find me attractive. It just means that this one girl just isn't into me for whatever reason. But if you take a guy who has never had any success with women, every rejection might as well be the entire female population rejecting him. And
Yeah.
sometimes, at least in my experience, sometime a guy having one positive experience with a woman, like going to a bar and getting a girl's number and getting laid or something like that, sometimes that's enough to kind of snap him out of it. To kind of get over that like self-pity of like, oh, no one likes me. I'm a fucking loser. I'm a beta. All it takes is like one chick to kind or like one lay to kind of break him out of that. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, no, now I'm fine. Not in all cases, but at least in a lot of cases where it's getting over that hump. But unfortunately, that's kind of where like the crevice is, right? Where it's guys who
Mhm.
kind of get over that hump and guys who never get over that hump, and that's where we find the incel movement. Guys who just they have never had a positive experience with a woman, girlfriend, lay, get a number, anything, and they have just completely given up on trying, and they have no idea how to progress. And to some extent, that's sort of where I think the pickup movement does fit, where it's kind of a bridge of that crevice. Because again,
Mhm.
otherwise, if we don't have something like that, we have guys who are able to become socially well adjusted and have success with women, and the guys who never have any success whatsoever, and they never get success. They'd have no idea how to even approach women or how to get women interested in them or how to be romantically or sexually attractive, and they just become incels. And there's like this huge crevice between them. And over time, the incel movement will just get, and not the movement, I should say, but the incel population will just get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And I don't mean to say, um, I don't think it's like we don't want that to happen because we don't want these guys to go shoot up schools, or like
Mhm.
drive trucks into crowds of people in Berlin or something. It's more of an issue of I just don't want that for people. Like that's awful. Like guys who are just like they're not bad guys. They're not guys who are just trying to get women to fuck them because they're greedy. They're guys who are like, yeah, I really crave human interaction of the female variety, which is natural. That's just a natural human instinct. Um, and unfortunately, not, on top of that, we live in a society that attaches your entire sense of self worth and masculinity to whether or not you're successful with women. And
Mhm.
so, for a lot of these guys, not only are they lacking in any sort of physical, sexual, romantic interaction, but on top of that, they feel like complete fucking losers because chicks don't like me. And if chicks don't like me, then I'm a loser and nothing I ever do will ever. I've met guys who are like, I have friends who are like they make a shit ton of money, they have PhDs, they're super talented, they have great families, they're great people, but because of their lack of success with women, it basically overrides everything else. They're still like in their head, I'm a fucking loser because that girl won't fuck me. Even if they have all this other stuff going on for them, it's just about whether or not that girl is interested in me.
Yeah, there's a thing sometimes about it, and like a big disagreement I have with almost every progressive I've debated, is that I get the impression sometimes, like, because whenever I talk to progressives, when they think of pickup, they think of people like sorry, just let me rephrase it. they think of just, oh, these like these manipulative tactics that are meant to like it's like trick women into falling for the cheap tricks or whatever, like something like that. Well, the truth is like it's like pickup is just like social skills. It's just flirting. It's just like flirting but more structured. And it's that's why like whenever they say it's manipulative, I often bring up how if you say it's manipulative, then you have to say things like wearing makeup is also manipulative. Or like if you want to go for a makeout with a girl you just met in like a date or whatever, like you like the part of like you don't just go for a makeout. You'll build up the sexual tension. Maybe you'll touch her shoulders, you'll smile, maintain eye contact, you get closer, you'll tease her a bit, and as you get more and more like flirty, and then you go in for a makeout, you could say that that would technically be manipulative as well if we say that pickup is manipulative because that's one type of pickup. But so the way I look at it is that when it comes to the problem I have with progressives is that they haven't really identified how to. It's like they haven't really identified the right for correct. Instead of saying pickup is bad, they should have said this element that's within the pickup world that's bad, and
Yeah.
they have failed to do that a lot. But a lot of times, what I'll do to them, I'll say, hey, okay, one thing I want to say is that let's say I agree, pickup is bad. What do you recommend for guys to do? The answer is almost always basically abolish the patriarchy or or just become friends with women and then you'll end up dating them. But then the response to that is like guys are just gonna get friend zoned because all these guys are gonna become friends with girls thinking they're gonna have sex with these women afterwards, and these women will feel like annoyed because we're like, I thought I became friends with this dude, we're getting along really well, but turns out he just wanted to have sex with me. And at the end of the day, you're just pushing dishonesty. You're pushing for guys to be dishonest with women just to pretend to want to be their friends. And then the response to that is really, well, actually, no. I'm not saying to become friends with a girl in order to have sex with her. I'm saying to become friends with women overall, and eventually you'll end up having sex with some of them. But the truth is, that's just that's just the same thing repackaged. You're not changing anything. This guy is horny. You're letting him just go like becoming friends with people, men or women. That's something you should do no matter what. But that's not something you should do to get good with girls. To get good with girls, you need a different kind of like training, in my opinion.
Well, I think it's a. I might have to go soon, but definitely
Mhm.
if you want to chat again, we should
Sure.
chat about the manipulation thing because I think like because I hear that a lot from like the red pill about like makeup or like heels and shit, and it's like it's always so cringy because like this is my 2 cents.
Mhm.
If you're a guy and you actually think like guys make it seem like when women wear makeup they're turning into a completely different person. It's like most like
Yeah.
are you like this is how I know that you have no experience with women. There are plenty of women who I've met. They're like they put on makeup, they look great. It's like, oh man, you look really pretty. Like that's good, but they're still attractive women. Like they're not
Mhm.
like it's like guys think that like they're like they take off their makeup and they turn into like fucking like Shrek or something. It's like that's not how that works. It's like you can like makeup is it's like well, it's like what if they're wearing like a lot of makeup? It's like then you can usually tell if a woman's wearing like a shit ton of makeup. She
Yeah.
looks like she's wearing like a kabuki mask or something. But like for most women, if they're wearing like eyeshadow or like rouge or lipstick or something, she still looks the same in the morning. It's weird when guys think that like no, they look completely different. It's like 99% of the time a woman looks pretty much like very exactly the same with or without makeup. It might like enhance her looks, sure, a little bit, but like she's still like an attractive girl. If you're a guy and you like, that's why I feel like a lot of these guys who say this shit still like have no experience with women. They're the only experience is like listening to Fresh and Fit or Red Pill shit. They've never actually like talked to women. Um,
Yeah.
but before we go, just to the touch on the friend thing, I think a better way to put it is to be friend instead of being friends with women, because that implies that like you're no longer a romantic option, and then like you're because you're either like a lover or a friend. I think a better
Mhm.
way to put it is to be friendly with women. Is
Yeah.
to what I mean by that is like when you approach a woman or you're meeting a woman first time, don't just don't just automatically jump into like pickup mode. Don't automatically like, oh, you see a pretty girl and like, hello, what's up? and I'm trying to work my game. A better way to sort of do that, or a better way, and I think this is what progressives mean, but
Hmm.
they don't, they're so bad at like articulating it. What they mean is like, so for example, I work at the bar, so we have a lot of regulars, and we have a lot of like men and women who come in. So if I was single and I was, um, it's like I gained interest in one of these women, I probably wouldn't like just go up to her immediately and like try to like run game on her. I'd be like, "Oh, hey, how are you?" Like have a nice conversation, and
Hmm.
then like establish some rapport. Just like you would with anyone, a guy, an old lady, an old man, whatever. Just like you would a person. And then if that person piques your interest, if this person seems cool, oh, we have similar interests, then you can progress further. It's like I think people sort of like they go too far in either direction. I think sometimes pickup guys make it seem like if you don't make your intent clear with a woman within like 15 seconds of talking with her, she's going to put you in the friend zone and you're never going to fuck her ever in your life, or she's never going to see you as a romantic option. And it's like that's cope, that's cringe. In most cases, at least in my experience, in most cases my best relationships they were with women who they weren't like I wasn't like friends with them. They weren't women who I like I hung out with, like, in the movies, like, oh, here's my female best friend who I'm secretly in love with. It wasn't like that. It was, hey, this is a woman who I know through a mutual friend, and we've talked a few times. And like, oh, we know each other, we're friendly. And then this one time at a party, we started talking, and then it turned out, oh, wow, we have mutual interests. And then I got interested in her, and then I pursued the romantic angle. Um, it's and that's in my experience that's how most of my relationships have started. That's how most
Hmm.
of my friends relationships have started. I think that's usually I think that's a much more healthy way of going about it, because in that
Yeah,
because
it's
the
very
issue with
ineffective though, you know.
what do you mean?
It's like because even then, like, because most of the time, like, you'll get like 2 or 3 times that among like when you'll meet a friend of a friend like that. Maybe you get 2 or 3 occasions like that in your entire life. That still doesn't happen that often.
Well,
And also, you don't want to be the guy who's trying to date all your friends' friends. It's bad for your reputation.
but the difference there, one, I wouldn't disagree. It's only like 2 or 3 times. I think that's because again that kind of goes back to the whole if it's only happening because I've had experiences with guys where I'm like, yeah, man, I really tried with these girls and it didn't work out. And I'm like, how many
Mhm.
girls have you asked out in the last like year? And he's like, one. It's like, okay, there's an issue there then. Then like you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
You're not putting yourself out there. You're not going to the places you need to go.
Mhm.
When we're talking about like not just like in your friend group, but like, hey, try to join clubs, activities, volunteering. These are places where you'll meet people, you'll meet people, you increase your social circle. And when you think about it, that's exactly how it used to be before online, before clubs and all that shit. It used to be like people would go to a place, they would have friends, they would meet people through those friends, and then they would establish interest based on that. Like it's this the whole idea. I almost think the idea of like pickup in and of itself is almost unnatural in a sense, where it's like this idea of like, hey, you go up to a random woman who you've never met and then try to get her in bed as quickly as possible. It's like even
Mhm.
that, like that. I don't think that's as that doesn't seem all that natural, as
Yeah.
opposed to now that is the other extreme of like what those guys talk about, like, hey, meet a woman, become friends with her, hang out for 6 months, and then fall in love with her, and then say that you're in love with her. It's like that's not usually not how that works out either. Usually, in most cases, it's like, hey, you go to a social area, or you have a social friend group, or like a volunteer, or like a club, or something like that. You interact with people, and then you interact with other people, and then they introduce you to other people, and then you meet someone who you vibe with, and then you pursue that romantically. Um, to the point about and well another issue is that to your point about like you don't want to be the person who's always trying to date the girls in your friend group. The issue with that are like guys who end up failing, that's because they're just trying to get pussy. That's the issue. And this is sort of why I think a lot of this is another issue why I think a lot of pickup artists pickup uh uh pickup rhetoric, I guess you could call it, or techniques, they don't actually help guys find like girls who they can kind of like vibe with or like find relationships,
Mhm.
because if you're only approaching this is like such a This is why guys think that like, or this is like such a classic thing when guys are like, how come girls like guys who aren't interested in them? Like, how come girls like guys who are aloof? In most cases, it usually isn't the fact that the girl doesn't like the doesn't it's not that she likes him because he doesn't like her. The difference is that if I go up to a girl at a bar and I'm like talking to her and I'm like being really nice and like, hey, what's up, what's up, in her mind, this is like when you empathizing with women and understanding like their viewpoint, again, not like talking about female nature, but just seeing it from a woman's viewpoint. If I go up to I can ask you, if I go up to a girl at a bar and I start chatting with her and I'm being really nice and like, chatting with her and trying to get to know her, what is she
Mhm.
thinking my intent is?
If you're in a bar, you're being, yeah, she's gonna assume you're making a move on her.
Exactly. And the issue there is that even if I'm like, I approach this girl and I really genuinely want to get to know her, in her mind, she doesn't know, hey, is this guy just being nice? Is he just saying this stuff because he wants to fuck me? Is he just trying to say all this stuff because he wants to get me in bed? And that might make her a bit apprehensive. Whereas if I'm a guy and let's say I meet a girl through a friend or something, and I don't show interest right away. I'm not trying to fuck her immediately. I'm not just like, hey, what's up, baby, what's up? But then we're talking one day, and then I start to get to know her, and I find something out. I find something out about her that's interesting. Oh, you love movies. I love movies too. And then I ask her, it's like, hey, would you want to hang out sometime? In her mind, now it's like, okay, maybe this guy actually is interested in me because of something about me as a person and not just because he thinks I'm pretty and wants to fuck me. Because any girl who's like halfway attractive has been approached by like God knows how many guys who say the exact same shit, who say, oh wow, that's so interesting. Oh wow, cool. Oh, you're like, this is your job? Whoa, it's so cool. And it means
Mhm.
nothing because in her viewpoint, okay, this guy is just trying to like, I have no idea if what this guy is saying is genuine or if he actually means it. He's just trying to fuck me. And the difference and again, it's not because the guy isn't showing interest in her. It's because the reason a woman might be interested in that guy is because, okay, this guy is demonstrating that he isn't just after me because he's trying to get in my pants. Hey, maybe this guy is actually, if he shows interest in me, he's actually showing interest because he's actually interested in something about me as a person. Um,
Mhm.
and that's sort of why I think a lot of the pickup artist stuff can not only will it, and again, I mean, in all fairness, I don't think it's like designed to. Not only will it not help you at all with getting into a relationship, but I actually think it can be detrimental to it. Because if you're always just focused on getting this girl, or actually, and this goes back to the manipulation question, and we can explore this. I'll cut us off
Yeah.
shortly, but
Mhm.
here's a question I have for you, and then we can use like a jump off point for our next conversation. If I go on a date with a girl and we're talking, and I'm asking her questions, yada yada yada, and she says that like, hey, I really love this movie that I saw like years ago, and I've seen that movie, and I fucking hate that movie. I like fucking hate that movie. If I tell her I like that movie and I love that movie, it's one of my favorite movies. If I tell her that because I'm trying to like butter her up or I'm trying to increase the odds of her sleeping with me, would you consider that a form of manipulation?
I'm sorry, do you mind clarifying? I'm not sure if I follow. I'll
So
write it down so I get it right.
here's a better, just to kind of simplify it. If I'm at a bar with a girl and I really want to fuck the girl, if I lie to the girl about something, like let's say she says I like bananas, and I'm like, oh, I like bananas too, even though I fucking hate bananas. Is me saying that? Would you consider that manipulation?
Yeah, to be clear, whenever I said the makeup is manipulative, for example, I was saying that if we say that pickup is manipulative, then we have to say
Oh,
that that is manipulative.
I
So
know,
in this case, I would say, sorry.
but I'm just saying, like in that example. So if like let's say a girl says, "I love bananas, my favorite fruit. I fucking love bananas," and I'm like personally, I hate bananas, but because I'm trying to fuck this girl, I'm like, Oh yeah, absolutely. I love bananas too. Oh my god, we're so similar. Would you consider that manipulative?
Mm, not manipulative, but I would say it's deceptive.
Okay, so if it's not or so here's or here's a better
Actually, I
way to
shouldn't say
put it.
deceptive. Deceptive is it's the same thing. Sorry, it's not deceptive. It's I guess you could say no. It's dishonest, but it's like it's you're wasting your time and her time, but it's not
Wait, but
the end of the world.
wait, but
Like
why?
we all make white lies.
But at that point, if that's the case, then why? And this is sort of like where you get this is like kind of where it gets like to the ethical question of pickup.
Mhm.
What? Why shouldn't I just lie to a girl to make her sleep with me? Like completely just lie about everything about me. Why should I even try and be like right? If I'm with a girl and this is kind of goes back to like my issue with like the pickup mindset. If I'm just trying to get this girl to fuck me, why
Mhm.
should I have any inclination to be honest or non-deceptive with her?
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to, right? Like, you could
Yeah.
lie to someone if you just want to get laid and you just lie and get laid. I don't think there's, I don't think if your goal is just to get laid, I don't think it matters. But if anything comes more to your own moral values and ethical values.
Yeah. But again, if we like take that to its extent,
Mhm.
if I go to a bar with a girl and I lie to her all night. It's like everything she says, I just tell her exactly what she wants to hear, and then she ends up fucking me. And then the next morning, or she texts me later, it's like, "Hey, we really connected. I want to like hang out with you." And I'm like, "Yeah, I was just looking for sex." Like, "Yeah, no thanks." I just, or she finds out that a lot of the stuff I said was deceptive. Now I wouldn't say that
Mhm.
would I don't think I wouldn't go so far as say like that's like sexual assault or something. But we could agree it's kind
Yeah.
of like a shitty thing to do to someone, right?
Yeah, no, it's a bad thing to do. But it's like for me, I would not encourage it because I feel like firstly, most women can tell when you lie. Very few guys are very good liars. But even if you're a really good liar, I don't know why you'd lie unless like there's some weird stuff about you. But if you're
Well, I
just
mean,
a
if
regular dude, I don't know.
Well, if I say it's like, what if I say it's like, hey, I work at an animal shelter where I save like wounded puppies, and the chick's like, aw, when really I work at a bar.
Oh, sorry, do you mind clarifying it? Sorry, I'm not sure.
So
If
if I,
I
so
didn't.
I work at a bar, I work
Mhm.
as a doorman at a bar or a YouTuber. If I'm on a date with a girl, why shouldn't I just tell her? She's like, what do you do for work? It's like, oh, I work at a veterinarian's office and I help sick puppies. And she'll be like, oh my god, really? Like, why shouldn't I? Because that's sort of the issue, and I think I touched upon with Alex for a bit. When it comes to pickup, my desire for guys is I want to get a guy to a place where you're able to sort of attract women for being who you are. You're just a confident guy. You have confidence in yourself. You have confidence in the things you like, that you dislike. You have your own opinions. You have the ability to sort of disagree with someone or agree with them. You have the ability to stand your ground. And once you've built yourself up into that man, then when you put yourself out there and talk to women, you're going to naturally vibe with women who share those values. Someone who you naturally vibe with. The issue I think when it comes to pickup is that there doesn't if the entire motive is just getting sex, there doesn't seem to be any sort of ethical or moral or consideration for why. So if we to like you said, if we did call pickup manipulation, why is that a bad thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, I can. It's like because I know you have to leave.
Yeah.
I'm trying to like end it there so you don't have to like.
Oh yes,
Because I know
we
you
we
said
can
yeah.
because we can have a. I think we should have a whole conversation about this. But just to kind of wrap it up, my issue is that I think what kind of irks me about pickup is that it
Mhm.
seems like if you have a guy and his only goal is to get sex, it starts to sort of, and this is kind of what happened with me, and I've seen it happen with other guys. It starts to does the guy start to kind of like lose sight of his own personality? Like if you're just trying to get laid, then I would think so let's say I go with like 10 different girls and I'm trying to get laid and I'm just trying to get laid in all of them. Probably I'm going to act differently on all 10 of those dates or at least some of them, right? because the 10
Yeah.
girls probably aren't similar. They probably have different values. They probably believe different things. They probably have different opinions. So in some cases, if I'm consistent, if I say exactly what's on my mind, some of those girls will fuck me, but some of them probably won't.
Yeah.
But then the question is, it's like, okay, well, if I want to fuck all 10 of them, why don't I just adjust my personality based off what all 10 of those girls like? Because hey, I'm the perfect guy for you, and the girl's like, okay, cool, and then we have sex, and that's cool. But then the issue is that like, is the girl really? Are you really like a confident guy, or are you just a good manipulator? Like you said, um, to the point about like lying, doesn't that just incentivize guys to become a better liar?
Mm. But yeah, we could discuss on other times
Yeah,
because like
we
that's
can.
like a big can of worms to go into.
Yeah, we'll have to. That's going to be a good conversation because I think that's where when people say it's manipulative, I don't think inherently pickup is, but I do think it's sort of when it talks about it does kind of cross into like depending on how a guy approaches it. If his goal is to just get laid and not necessarily like care about like, hey, is this a girl I actually like? Like, no, okay, I just want to fuck her. I do think it gets into a not like a moral or ethical framework, but just kind of like it's just kind of shitty, or it's just kind of like not good. It just makes the whole dating process and romantic process kind of shitty for everyone. But yeah, we can have a full. Well, I'll message you and we'll set up a conversation because that'd be really
Yeah.
cool.
And just like one thing super quickly, just because I sent you that photo, I just so you don't wonder why I sent you a random photo in the Discord thing. Because
Oh, I
earlier
didn't
we are
see it.
talking about how makeup, whether it makes a difference or not. That's like Pokimane. She's like a super popular like streamer. I found
Okay,
this photo where like, oh, she took a photo showing how her face is without makeup. And in my opinion, like
she's fucking
this looks
gorgeous. What
like
are you talking about? You
you know
think?
she's attractive. It's not about whether she's attractive or not. Like she definitely is. Just that to me when I see both photos, it's like two different people, you know?
Wait, you?
It's like I'd say it's like uh if I like I could even think that a makeup Pokimane is the other girl's sister or something. Like I could tell they look very similar, but the makeup does make a noticeable difference.
Okay, I completely disagree. Well, one, not only do I disagree, would you fuck
Mhm.
both these girls?
Yeah, yeah, of course.
Okay, yeah, and that's kind of the point where it's like guys make it seem like it's like, oh man, I thought she was a 9.5, but actually she was a 9.2 after she took off her eye. It's like, what the fuck are you even talking about, bro? Yeah, I'd completely disagree. I think I would look at these girls because, like, again, like I've been with women, so I know that like if I meet a woman at a bar and she has makeup, she's not going to look exactly the same as what she was when she like washes her face and like the next morning afterwards. But yeah, I could recognize these people.
Like the
Um,
way I think of it, it's like, when you go to a grocery store and they tell you this thing costs $3.99. That's basically saying it costs $4. But even though you know that, but when you see 3.99, it still tricks your brain, even though you know the trick.
yeah, but again, then it's like, and the thing is like I almost think that would apply more to men. Like again, it's funny because like in that case, like when I just asked you, like, would you fuck both of these girls, and you're like, absolutely, of course. That's sort of the issue where it's like guys will simultaneously say that like guys are like, like I think, would you agree most guys would probably fuck anything? Maybe not
Yeah,
anything,
yeah,
but
yeah,
like I don't
yeah,
know. Like if a chick's like a 4+ and he had the
yeah.
opportunity, probably he would probably fuck her if he had the
Most
opportunity.
guys would.
Yeah,
There's a Alex had a whole like social experiment, right? When he pretended to be a really fat woman on a Tinder, and he got like 500 likes in one day.
yeah. um,
Like
so
a
yeah,
hot dude doesn't get that,
yeah. It's just well, that's the thing. It's like I actually think women are more, and we can talk about that when it comes
Yeah,
to. And again, I'm not talking about like
it's a
female
big
nature.
can of worms. I'll say that.
Yeah. But the issue of like, it's just funny when I hear that when like guys are like, yeah, I'll fuck anything. But then they'll be like, God, I can't believe this girl. I thought she was like an 8.5 because she like had makeup. And then in the morning she was a 7. And it's like, what the
Yeah,
fuck, bro? Like, what are you complaining about?
yeah,
She's
you'd
so,
still fuck him anyway.
yeah, exactly. I don't know. But,
Yeah,
yes, man, I'll let you go. Thank you so much. I'll message you, later in the week and we'll put together another chat.
sure. Can I plug myself before I leave?
Oh, absolutely. Sorry. Again, I'm
Yeah.
not a streamer, so I always forget. Go ahead.
Anyways, so hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed this. On my channel is Vikslife, Vikslife. Usually, like I'll debate people, and like if I heard them say something that I disagree with on dating stuff, I'll have them on my channel and we'll talk. I've talked to Destiny, I've talked to Vosh, I've talked to Notsurarudite, I've talked to Alex of Playing with Fire, and a whole lot of other streamers. I also do like it's a new concept I've been trying out where I bring on Instagram models and we kind of like flirt with each other for like 10 minutes. I'm still gonna testing that out, but if you guys want to see me try out different stuff on dating, yeah, you can check me out at Vikslife, Vikslife. And thank you very much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Anytime. Thanks for coming on. Yeah, I'll hit you up and we'll do it probably maybe next week if you're free. I'll hit you up.
Yeah, for sure. All right, have a good night.
Take care, man. All right, guys. I gotta get going. I went a little bit